What's up, Flannelverse? Feels like my last show with Adam just ended, and now I am back to break down the two-game slate once again. On this one, I'm also going to touch on Showdown. I'm going to start, as usual, going position by position, starting with quarterbacks, then running backs, receivers, tight ends, maybe a little touch on defenses for the two-gamer. Take any questions you have, and I will run my lineups on Run the Sims for the two-game slate. That's how I'm going to start. I'm going to follow that by taking a look at first the 6:15 showdown. I don't remember which one is first. I guess we can see it on the screen right there. We'll start with the Jets-Dolphins showdown, and then after that, I'll touch on the Bengals-Broncos showdown as well on this show. Appreciate you guys showing up once again. While you're coming, please do like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. Trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season. Have a long ways to go to get there, so really could use your support. Thanks, guys. All right, we are going to be going again, starting with the quarterbacks here. By the way, I'm using Run the Sims here. If you want to check out Run the Sims for yourself, you can use promo code Neil to get 10% off your first payment on any of their products. Starting with the quarterbacks, and I'm just going to do all of the quarterbacks at once, kind of give you a quick breakdown here. So Justin Fields projected for 38% ownership at 5,500. Tua Tagovailoa projected was 14% ownership here at 5,200. Then we've got Jake Browning coming in at just 9% ownership, 5,700. And Bo Nix, 39% ownership at 6,000. So kind of a big disparity in ownership here. Bo Nix and Justin Fields getting the majority, and then kind of contrarian to go with Tua Tagovailoa or Jake Browning. At those ownership numbers, I'm going to like the pretty contrarian quarterbacks. I want to double check what the ownership is elsewhere. RG has it at 42% Bo Nix, 27% Justin Fields. So he's not getting quite as much here. 15% Tua and 16% Browning. You can kind of make a case for any of the quarterbacks. I wish that I could tell you that there's a strong preference here, but I think you can really, in a 150 set, I think you want to have some exposure to all four of them. I think they're all pretty strong options here. I will say I've heard from a friend of mine who's planning on just doing 150 Tua Tagovailoa stacks. Totally viable if you just want to lean in on one quarterback. That's not usually the way that I play it. I'm going to be pretty spread out with my quarterbacks, but I think you can make a pretty strong case for all of them. Nix, of course, and Fields projecting pretty well. And then Tua, you get the correlation. Whenever Tua goes off, he's going to bring along most likely multiple pass catchers. And then Browning at low ownership, honestly, he's not a really bad quarterback. Kind of a fun play as well, even though he is probably too expensive relative to the others. David says the soft pricing on this two-gamer turns the seemingly easy into the unthinkable. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting slate all around. A lot of moving parts, weird situations here, but it's kind of a fun one. I kind of enjoy this game. This two-gamer should be fun. Yes, Dan, I'm going to be starting with the two-gamer, and then I will touch on Showdown after the two-gamer. Can you list all the running backs that you would rather have before Breece Hall? I mean, definitely Devin Achane. And then it's a toss-up. You could make the case for Breece as the second. We'll have to take a look at the ownership here. Starting with the main. So I'm breaking down the two-game main slate, and then I'll be doing Showdown after the main slate. I'm going to make my lineups for the two-gamer. So I'm starting here just looking at the full two-game slate. That'll be the next hour or so. I'll make my lineups here. And then after that, I'll get into the Showdown as well. So I think my favorite... Well, it really depends on ownership. I'll use RG's ownership. At these ownership numbers, probably Tua would be my favorite. I think if I were to make just one lineup, it would be Tua in my first lineup because he's the cheapest. He projects worse than all except for Browning, but also we know that Tua is capable of putting up some big games, and that when he does, he's usually going to bring along multiple pass catchers. It was mostly 2 years ago when you'd see Waddle and Hill crushing together. But really, it's so condensed there for the Dolphins that it's really easy to stack up Tua with 2 of the 3 or 3 of the 3 of Devin Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. You could mix in some Malik Washington or Darren Waller, but pretty easy to just stack him up with his best options, and he's cheap and clearly capable of a big score. So I do think that Tua at this ownership number, probably the first one that I'd go to if I were playing like a single entry tournament. If I were just planning on playing one lineup, it would probably be a Tua double or triple stack. After Tua, it would be Fields, I think Fields just a really strong play, averaging like 48.5 rushing yards per game so far on the season. Actually, now is a good time. Let's take a look at the matchups. I'll read off some of my info here. So starting with the matchups for the quarterbacks, we've got Bo Nix has the fourth best possible matchup for quarterbacks against Bengals in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed so far on the year. So obviously Bo Nix looks great. The matchup is great. Fields also a really strong matchup for quarterbacks against this Dolphins defense, and it's a particularly strong matchup for quarterbacks on the ground so far this year. Strong in all aspects, but particularly on the ground. So Fields looks good from a matchup standpoint. You have to scroll down a little bit to find the others. Not a great matchup for Jake Browning. And I'm missing one. Miami. Not, it's kind of a middling, slightly below average matchup for Tua. But from a matchup standpoint, yeah, it stands out for Bo Nix and for Justin Fields. I still like Tua the best just for tournaments because he's getting such low ownership. But I think it would be Tua number one for me. Fields number two if he really does come in here at 27% ownership. As he gets closer to 40, then it's less appealing. But nice matchup for quarterbacks so far this year, particularly rushing quarterbacks. So looks good for Fields. After Fields, it's kind of a toss-up. I mean, Bo Nix, like clearly the cash game quarterback, I'd say, and has such a great matchup. He's a strong quarterback. He runs a lot to love about Bo Nix. But if he were to come in at 42% ownership, I probably would go to Browning before Nix here. At 16%, I mean, that's not low enough that it's kind of a toss-up. Maybe I'd still actually put Nix before Browning. But Browning, again, in a 150 set, I think you should have some exposure there, or at least the way I play, I would like to have some exposure to Browning. Sometimes on a 2-game slate, I will just completely X out one quarterback. I don't think that this is one of those where like there's one that's just way worse than the other options or one that's way better than the other options. You can kind of make a case for any of them. Just looked at the matchups in terms of pass rate over expectation on the season. The Broncos actually fourth in pass rate over expectation. The Bengals are 13th. Although it is worth noting that in their first game with Jake Browning in week 3, they were actually well below expectations. So they would rank a lot worse last week with Browning. We'll see if that holds up. The Jets are bottom in the league in terms of pass rate over expectation. They're actually up with Tyrod Taylor last week and then still bottom of the league there. And then finally, the Dolphins 15th. So right in the middle. I think that's all I really have to say about quarterbacks. You can stack them up, a number of different ways. In particular, with Fields, I think it's totally viable to just play Fields naked if you wanted to. I also like the idea of stacking him, like overstacking Fields, so playing him with Mason Taylor and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and or Josh Reynolds, like overstacking the rushing quarterback Fields, because not many people are going to be overstacking it, and certainly it's plausible that he could put up a lot of points through the air instead of on the ground. So I do like the idea of overstacking with Fields. Nix, same thing, like you can play him naked, but I think generally I'm going to want to have at least one and generally multiple pass catchers or players from the Broncos. I think you can include the running backs as pass catchers there. I'm always going to be stacking with Tua personally, and same thing with Jake Browning. They don't run enough that I would want to play them unstacked. But I think there's a lot of ways you can play the quarterbacks. But yeah, I like overstacking with the rushing quarterbacks because I think it'll be a little bit under-owned here. Jose asks, do you like Ollie Gordon more than Breece Hall? Do you think they'll get the same amount of touches? No, I like Breece Hall better. Gordon will get lower ownership, so that's the biggest benefit to Gordon, but no, Breece Hall should get more touches and he's just more electric. So certainly would prefer Hall. Yes, please do like the video. Thanks for the shout out, Dan. Let's see. Okay, let's move on to Chris says Tua stinks. I mean, if you don't want to play Tua because you think he stinks, I think that is viable. You can play who you want to play. I think Tua just has shown the ability to spike upside in fantasy. So regardless of whether he stinks, we know that he's capable of putting up big scores. So I don't really care that he stinks if he can put up big scores. Let's move on to running backs. I think quarterback is usually like the least interesting discussion to me. I think it gets interesting once you start talking about the running backs. And again, let's look at all of them together. So I'll use this is Roto Grinders Lineup HQ. You can get $10 off your first month at Roto Grinders if you're interested. Also, that the link is in the description. But let's take a look at the running backs. I'll sort by projection here. So Devin Achane projects the best. Awesome role for Devin Achane. He has, I believe, 19 targets over the past 2 weeks. I can double check that. But Achane, probably the best running back play on the slate. He is getting the most ownership. I think that is universal. Everywhere has Achane getting the most ownership, but I just think he should get the most ownership at 7,000. We can pull up the bell cow report here for Achane. On the season, 30 rushes, so 10 rushes per game. On top of that, 23 targets on 73.1% route participation. We can also break this down. Actually, I'm going to break this down. I'll have them both open. I'm going to bring up the bell cow report here, broken down by week. So we can kind of see how things progress. So over the past 2 weeks, 10 targets and then 9 targets for Achane the past 2 weeks, 83.8% route participation, 82.9% route participation. That is like an elite wide receiver's workload for Achane over the past couple weeks, while still getting 10 carries per game. So just too good of workload, and he's talented. So he'll see a lot of work, and then on top of seeing a lot of work, we know that he's capable of putting up a big score. In terms of the matchup, and I'll go over all the teams. It's actually a really strong matchup so far this year in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed per game. Really strong matchup for Chase Brown against this Denver defense, which sort of surprised me. Not what you really expect of this Denver defense. I think they have a strong defensive line, but for whatever reason, so far they have allowed a lot of fantasy points to running backs, particularly through the air. Which Chase Brown is a fine pass catcher. It's not really his strongest suit. But thought that was interesting that they were so high up there. Also, a really strong matchup, which is intuitive for running backs against Cincinnati. And then Miami, below average matchup for Achane. But again, the workload is so good that I'm not overly concerned about it. And for the Jets, it's actually a really strong matchup for Jets running backs as well. So 3 of the 4 have top 7 matchups for the running backs here. And then a tougher one for Achane. But even with a tough matchup, I think Achane is the best running back on the slate. You can see it in the projection, kind of a gap there. Also in the price, he is the most expensive. But Achane, just an objectively very strong play. I should note here, as we're talking about running backs, I think most of my lineups will have 3 running backs in them. I think it's a really strong running back slate across the board. We'll see that there are many that I'm pretty interested in here, but Achane is probably the one that I end up with the most exposure to. Can you envision an offense and a defense from the same game both getting there? Definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-game slate. The leading defense here could score 4 fantasy points. It could also score 25. You never really know, but certainly they can both put up big scores in the same game, even from the same team. It's possible for that to happen. Just like in Showdown, totally viable to play. You can play your quarterback against the opposing defense in the same lineup. I think that's totally fine, but absolutely could happen. All right. I like 3 running backs more than 4 wide receivers. In most of my lineups, I'll be playing 3 running backs. I think this is just a really strong running back slate. We've got too many good options here. So again, Achane probably my favorite. Chase Brown, I mean, this is a lot of ownership, more than I was anticipating. 52% ownership going to Chase Brown. He's really not done much so far this year, has been struggling to get it going. But yeah, looking like over 50% projected ownership going to Chase Brown. The role is obviously pretty good for Chase Brown. Oh, and actually, before I move on, let's go. I'll go team by team. So Devin Achane, obviously love. Ollie Gordon, also viable. We saw him. The coach speak after week 2 was we wanted to use him more. The game script wasn't quite right last week. Hopefully you guys played him in Showdown after I talked about him quite a bit in that Showdown slate. We saw him. He got 9 carries in that game, including a goal line carry. Did not see a target, only ran 3% of the routes, but he is clearly somebody that they like. They gave him 9 carries, even with Jalen Wright coming back. They gave pretty strong workload to Ollie Gordon there. I think it makes sense for him to be their goal line back. He is the most physical, biggest running back that the Dolphins have. So he could continue to have a strong role there. And that's actually what Mike McDaniel said after the week 3 game is, yeah, we think that we could get a lot of production from our running back 2 as well as our running back 1. So he does consider Ollie Gordon their running back 2. You saw it last week, the 9 carries. Had some nice plays even like in the middle of the field. Like he had, we can, does it show the long here? I don't know if we can find the long here, but regardless, he had, a nice kind of breakout run in that game for maybe 15, 20 yards, something like that, along with the touchdown. If he can get 9 carries at his price tag, I think Ollie Gordon is a fairly strong running back 2 option at very little projected ownership. 4% here. 10% at RG, so that's a little bit hefty. I probably come in under 10%, but I think he's somebody you want to have a little bit of exposure to. I would not go overboard with Ollie Gordon. I don't think I'm playing any Jalen Wright, even though Mike McDaniel did say like we want to get opportunities for Jalen Wright. I don't think it'll be enough to play him on a 2-game slate. Chase Brown again. I'm fine with about 50%. Again, we looked at the schedule adjusted. It's a nice matchup for Chase Brown. I think he's the only Bengals running back I'm likely to get to here. You could play like Taj Brooks if you think it's going to be a blowout or something like that, but I don't think I get to any other Bengals running backs because it has just been the Chase Brown show so far. 47 carries through 3 weeks. He has 11 targets on 40.2% route participation. Samaje Perine, just 4 carries and 2 targets on the season. Taj Brooks, 5 carries and 0 targets, and most of that came in the fourth quarter of a blowout last week. So really, Taj Brooks would be the contingent upside in case of a blowout. If something happened to Chase Brown, he got hurt, might be Samaje Perine coming in. I don't know what we would expect in that case. But regardless, on the 2-game slate, I think it's a little bit thin to go to anybody other than Chase Brown on the Bengals. But Chase Brown, around 50%, feels totally fine to me. I guess we'll do the Jets before we do the Broncos. So Breece Hall projected for 73% ownership at 5,700. Braylon Allen 5% at 5,200. RG has it as only 43%. Is that right? 43% to Breece Hall. I mean, that's a huge disparity. 43% versus 73% for Breece Hall. At 73%, I would certainly want to be well under the field. At 43%, I think that's a totally reasonable number for Breece Hall. I actually will probably come in over that. My expectation is that I come in with around 55, 60% Breece Hall is kind of where my aim would be. I want to have a lot of Breece Hall exposure. If he comes in 75% owned, I would regret having so much. But if he came in at 43%, I would want to have 60%. So that's kind of my aim is 55, 60%, and hope that the field is way off for me in one direction or another. Pretty wide range of outcomes for Breece Hall. I think he's so on the season, Breece Hall, let's see, 38 carries, 10 targets on 35.9% route participation. What I don't love is of those targets. I mean, he had 6 targets last week, which really made up for the fact that he only had 9 of the 15 running back carries. So kind of splitting carries. 6 targets kind of makes up for that. But that was with Tyrod Taylor. In the 2 games with Justin Fields, he just has 2, let's see. Yeah, 2 and 2 targets in the 2 games with Justin Fields. I think that will come up and he'll average more than 2 targets with Justin Fields. But it's a little bit concerning that Fields has not really targeted him all that much. And he only really got there through the passing game with Tyrod Taylor, especially because he only got 9 carries in that game, 10 the game before. He did get 19 in week 1. So maybe it comes back up. I think there's kind of a wide range of outcomes for Breece Hall. I do think, based on the coach speak, it does seem, as you would probably expect, he should be the lead running back here. It does sound like the coaches also agree with that. He is going to be the lead running back. They really do value him. They mentioned it multiple times this week that they need to get the ball in Breece Hall's hands more. So I'm expecting that they will get the ball in Breece Hall's hands more than they did last week. I think probably more on the ground. So I think he'll probably get 15 carries or so this week would be, on average, what I would guess he would get. And he's just an electric running back in a strong matchup. So yeah, I think I want to have probably more Breece Hall than Chase Brown, especially if Chase Brown is going to get more ownership. Chase Brown more expensive than Breece Hall. I like Breece Hall quite a bit. He would probably be my second favorite running back on the slate if these ownerships hold up. Maybe even first relative to ownership. I think he looks like a really strong play. If he came in at 73%, then I'm not as excited about that. I do think that the floor is pretty minimal. If we see, he's been getting 9 and 10 carries the past 2 weeks. If you go back to 2 targets for Breece Hall, like the floor is pretty low. But generally, I'm expecting him to come in lower than this, and I would have a lot of interest if he comes in under 50% ownership. Braylon Allen, I think, is probably my third favorite backup running back. So certainly not a priority for me. If you want to mix him in, he's clearly can, score a goal line touchdown. The problem is that the price is just too close to J.K. Dobbins and Breece Hall and R.J. Harvey, all the other running backs that I like better. So I don't think I get to much Braylon Allen. I will want to have, I think, a little bit of exposure because he could just score a couple touchdowns and be obnoxious in that way. But not a huge priority for me because I prefer a lot of other running backs in his price range. We saw last week Braylon Allen did get 6 of the 15 running back carries. So he does have some role on the team, and you would expect him to potentially get some goal line work as the bigger bruiser running back, but not super involved in the passing game, and just not getting a ton of work there. Also has some contingent upside if anything were to happen to Breece Hall, or in case of a blowout, he could come in, but might just be Isaiah Davis in the case of a blowout too. I don't know. I think Braylon is not a huge priority, but somebody to have in a 150 set. Finally, I do have a lot of interest in the Broncos. Kind of saved them for last because I think it's a really interesting situation here. It is the fourth best. Is this right? Yeah, fourth best matchup for running backs so far on the season. So far, it's mostly been the J.K. Dobbins show. 41 carries on the season for J.K. Dobbins, just 6 targets on 27.1% route participation, but pretty nice usage on the ground for J.K. Dobbins, just under 14 carries per game. In a great matchup here. A lot to like about J.K. Dobbins and not getting too much ownership. 44% totally reasonable for J.K. Dobbins. I think I probably get there. Again, I'm going to have a lot of exposure to the running backs because I like them generally more than the receivers. So J.K. Dobbins looks great, 44%. I think I want to be over the field there as well. Less of a priority for me than Breece Hall, I think, and Devin Achane. But I think I might even like him better than Chase Brown if the ownership is lower on J.K. Dobbins. It's close between those two, I think. Looks great. And then R.J. Harvey is, to me, kind of a priority. Now, he's actually come in. This is, I was looking at it this morning. He was at about 4% ownership projection around the industry. I guess this is what happens when everybody's talking about him all long. Now he's up to 15% projected ownership here, which is a little bit less interesting. Run the Sim still has him at 6%. I think elsewhere that I've looked has him in that kind of 4 to 6% ownership range. So it's a little bit tough. If he comes in at 15%, then it's suddenly like, all right, I guess I'm not super high on him relative to the field. I still think I probably would come in over that number on RJ Harvey. The floor super low on RJ Harvey. I mean, he so far on the season, his workload just 13 carries through 3 games, 6 targets, 28% route participation. That's 2 targets per game, just over 4 carries per game at 4,800. So the price tag pretty close to the other running backs. Not much of a workload so far. If you wanted to fade him, if you think he is going to come in 15 to 25, somewhere in that percent range ownership, and you wanted to fade him, I think that's viable. That's not how I'm playing it. Again, most of the places I've seen ownership projections are pretty low on him. And I like the upside of RJ Harvey. Again, great matchup. Even if he just sees limited work, I think that he is electric enough that he can just score on a big, long touchdown here. Really strong offensive line, great matchup, all of that. So I think he's not a great play if he has 4 carries and 2 targets. Like I probably wouldn't want to play him at those numbers. But the reason I want to play him is my expectation is that he continues the rookie renaissance this week. We've seen every rookie running back suddenly, not every rookie, but like a ton of rookie running backs suddenly hitting this week. There's no reason it has to be this week for RJ Harvey, but he is a player that Sean Payton went out and got. He's an older rookie running back, so you'd think that they went out and got him for this season. A lot of the coach speak has been pretty promising on RJ Harvey, and I'll read some of the coach speak right now. This is straight out of the Coach Speak Index Discord on the 25th. Sean Payton said, "We drafted RJ Harvey because of his running skill set, and we knew he could catch the ball. Between he and J.K. Dobbins, we see them carrying the boatload of what we're doing, and then Tyler Bidet helps us on third down. We've looked at how we want to split that, and I think we have a better feel for it." On the 26th, offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi asked whether he believes that in a hot hand approach to the backfield rotation or if there is a plan for the amount of snaps going into a game. He said, "I think both. There is a plan. As we mature at the running back position, I think we can just rotate them in. And then there are certain plays that play to J.K. Dobbins' strengths a little more and a few that play to R.J. Harvey's strengths a little more. I think we're getting to the point where we can rotate them in. And if someone is seeing the game real well and they have the hot hand, then maybe you feed him a little bit more. They're both really good backs, and you'd like them both to get 20 carries a game. I think it will be very beneficial to their health to split the load." I think so. So my read is, if we see more carries than what they're getting right now, I think they go to RJ Harvey. I think J.K. Dobbins, like he's going to get the first. If they have 15 carries, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to get 12 of them. If they have 20 carries, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to get 12 of them. So it's going to be, the number of carries that the team gets overall, I think is going to dictate how much RJ Harvey gets. I think as the running back pie gets bigger, I think RJ Harvey gets a bigger portion of it. And I think this is just a game that should set up well for them to run the ball quite a bit. It's a nice matchup against the Bengals. They should be able to, kind of take control of the game and run a lot. So because I think that it's going to be a bigger running back pie and that RJ Harvey should do well once he gets a little bit more work, I think he's a strong play at 4,800. But again, it all comes down to ownership because the floor is very low. I just think that the ceiling is high, and most places have him projected for single-digit ownership. So I think I'd like to shoot for 20 to 25% RJ Harvey in my lineups and just accept that if things don't go the way I expect, he's probably not going to do all that much. Anything else on running backs? I think I've covered all of the running backs that I have interest in. And the other thing is Tyler Bidet, I think, also loses some of his work, his portion of the pie in this game, because I don't think that we're going to see much pressure from the Bengals defense. And Tyler Bidet is usually used for like third downs, pass protection situations. So, they specifically said we need him for the game against the Colts. They were like, we need Bidet in this matchup. I don't think that this is a matchup where they're going to need Tyler Bidet. So I also think we could get more work from RJ Harvey from that standpoint. Is RJ Harvey to get different in Bo Nix stacks? Yeah, I think so. He's, a strong pass catcher. They could do well together. So yeah, I think that's a good way to get different in Bo Nix stacks. All right, let's move on to wide receivers. Let me take a drink of my water. And we'll look at all of them again. Maybe we'll start. Let's look at the matchups first for the wide receivers. So starting with great matchup for the Denver receivers, kind of across the board. Denver just has a really strong matchup against Cincinnati, which is just not a good defense. So strong matchup for Denver receivers. Middle of the pack for Dolphins receivers. A little bit below average for Jets receivers. And then tough matchup for Bengals receivers. And we can look more closely at wide receivers because I think this is important, looking at the wide receiver cornerback matchups. So starting with the Bengals, Jamar Chase expected to be shadowed by Patrick Surtain. I think that's pretty important. We'll discuss that. The Denver receivers, no shadow situations expected. Miami, Tyreek Hill expected to be shadowed by Sauce Gardner. Again, pretty important, I think, something to factor in. And then the Jets, no shadow situations expected. So those are the wide receiver matchups. We can also look at usage here. So starting with the Bengals, Jamar Chase has had a great workload so far this year, 27 targets, 93.5% route participation. Continues to be a pretty clear wide receiver one, even with Jake Browning, kind of a fine option, but is expected to get a fair amount of ownership. Run the Sims has Jamar Chase at 76% projected ownership. Rotogrind has him at 62% projected ownership. I suspect that I'm going to come in underweight on Jamar Chase because it's such a tough matchup here against Patrick Surtain. Probably the best cover corner in the NFL. So with the tough matchup for Jamar Chase, I think I'm going to end up under the field there, even at 62% ownership. But I think there's the possibility that he actually gets higher ownership than that. Who knows? I guess it kind of depends to what extent people are factoring in the matchup, but I think that he is going to get a fair amount of ownership because it's kind of easy to afford him on this slate. So if you can afford $8,000 Jamar Chase, I think most people are just going to. So I think ultimately I'm going to end up under the field on Jamar Chase, and I'm going to be playing over the field, I think, pretty significantly on T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins probably my biggest stand at wide receiver today. I'm just going to lean into the possibility that, hey, maybe Jake Browning just focuses on T. Higgins, also has that squeaky wheel narrative going for him. He has not been targeted much so far this year. On the season, just 14 targets for T. Higgins, under 5 per game through 3 weeks, despite 86.9% route participation. This is one of the best receivers in the NFL, maybe the best wide receiver 2 in the NFL. So I think there's he's rightfully upset that he's not being targeted enough, given how good he is. Jamar Chase came out this week and said he's always told T. Higgins, if you're not happy with how much you're getting the ball, go out and ask for it. I'm assuming that T. Higgins now has gone out and asked for the ball this week, and it would make sense for them to go to T. Higgins anyway because Jamar Chase is going to be covered by Patrick Surtain. Kevin says cornerback matchups are overrated. Teams never play more than 50% man. I mean, I think generally cornerback matchups overrated. I'm not sure that Patrick Surtain cornerback matchups are overrated. I think there are certain cornerbacks that I do think you should factor in, and Patrick Surtain to me is one of them. I probably would fade Chase in single entry. Now, to be clear, I'm still going to have 45, 50% Chase. It's not like I'm full fading him. I think he's clearly got major upside against Patrick Surtain. He can beat any matchup. I don't want to make it sound like this is a full fade situation for Jamar Chase. It's more just that Chase's situation makes me like more. The fact that he's saying Higgins should be asking for the ball, and Chase now has the matchup with Surtain, to me, and we're getting T. Higgins at relatively low ownership at 31%. So all of that factored in. If the whole field were saying like, hey, this is a situation where Chase is getting shadowed, and so we want to play T. Higgins, and he were projected for 55% ownership, I would say, screw that. I'm not going to pay attention to that narrative. But because the field doesn't seem to be really paying attention to the narrative, it's more like box score chasing. He's being projected for 31% ownership both places. There, I'm like, all right, well then I will buy into the narrative because I think probably is something to it, and we can get a little bit different by going there. So to me, T. Higgins stands out as just a fantastic play. Yoshivas is a totally reasonable low-owned option, 3,100 projected for 3% ownership. He's, I think, the only other Bengals receiver that I would play. I don't think I'm going to Mitchell Tinsley. We also got some coach speak on Yoshivas this week. Zach Taylor said, Andre Yoshivas' opportunities will come and will take shape over the course of the season. Kind of a weird situation there in that let's look at his route share. He actually saw a decrease in route participation last week. I am not sure what the reasoning was there. Maybe somebody in chat has a better idea of why he saw a decrease in route participation, but I don't think that's going to hold up. I would expect him. I guess they ran a lot of 2 tight end sets last week. I would expect his route participation to come back up closer to 70% because he is the wide receiver 3 here. Maybe it just depends on the matchup. But I think Yoshivas a viable low-owned option, not somebody that I'm trying to get to 20% or anything, but maybe 5% Yoshivas would make some sense to me. All right. Then we've got the Jets. All starts with Garrett Wilson, projected for 54% ownership here. Wilson clearly strong matchup, as we saw for receivers against Miami, or middling matchup. Let's see, where was he? Yeah, kind of a middling matchup for receivers against Miami. He will be targeted pretty heavily here. Let's see. On the season, 28 targets for Garrett Wilson, 95.1% route participation. Those 28 targets, that is a 35% target share. So that's one of the top target shares in the NFL, second highest target share in the NFL so far. The issue is just that they don't throw the ball that much. So when they do, pretty good chance of throwing it to Garrett Wilson, but they actually don't throw it that much. So 28 targets, it's a lot, but it's not like Puka Nacua level or anything like that. I think he's a strong play at around 50% ownership, probably in cash games. I think he's one of the better cash game options at 6,200. Decent matchup. Love the role. Clearly has upside, talented player. I don't think I have that much more to say about Garrett Wilson. I think he's one of the top receiver options on the slate. I think 54% ownership. I probably want to be with maybe even above the field there. I think it's a reasonable number. Right around 50% is probably where I want to be. I do think you can go to some Josh Reynolds, 5% projected ownership or no, that's not ownership. Let's see. Not showing ownership number here, but he's projected for single digit ownership. Kind of unclear what his usage will be in this game because he hasn't played since, let's see, what does Run the Sims have it at? Oh, they actually have Josh Reynolds at 12% ownership. That's higher than I expected. Somebody you might want in your player pool. He is got 3 targets in week 1 in his only game so far. He ran 92% of the routes. He had 92% route participation in week 1. Saw 3 targets. The offseason buzz was that he is the wide receiver 2 here. I don't really think you need to go beyond Wilson and Reynolds. You could consider a Tyler Johnson or Arian Smith. Let's see, Arian Smith up to 72.3% route participation last week. I don't know if we continue to see that, and Tyler Johnson at 66%. I don't know if these numbers hold or if they go down with who loses with Josh Reynolds coming back. I guess we can take a look at that. Might as well. We've got time. So Josh Reynolds, where did he line up? 96% out wide. So Tyler Johnson, 42% in the slot. Arian Smith, 46% in the slot. So it's not really totally clear based on this who he would be taking those snaps from the most. Both of them played, about 50%, a little bit more out wide than in the slot. But yeah, I don't know. It's not immediately clear to me who is going to lose work out of Tyler Johnson and Arian Smith. Allen Lazard also involved there, but not super involved. Just 23% route participation last week. Maybe he loses all of his route participation, and then Josh Reynolds cuts into the others. I don't know. Maybe when inactives come out, we'll get a better idea of where that might be coming from. Actually, did they just come out? We should have just gotten inactives for this game, I believe. So let's see if we got anything interesting here. All right, I'm going to look up real quick. Jets inactives. Just got them. Taj Washington, the only receiver out for the Jets. Wait, that's for the Dolphins. Where's Jets? Huh. They don't seem to be out yet. They should be out any minute. So we'll have a better idea once they are. That's annoying. They're late. Here we go. Oh, Tyler Johnson is out. So we did get Tyler Johnson inactive. Nobody else that I was going to be playing. Kenny Nwangwu is out. Jelani Woods, but wasn't playing them anyway. So Tyler Johnson. That is actually kind of interesting that we have Tyler Johnson out. All right, Tyler saw it, got there first. All right. Okay, so with Tyler Johnson out, that does make me like Arian Smith a little bit better. Because you'd think he's probably going to hold something close to the role he had. Maybe loses a little bit, and then Josh Reynolds just takes over. Tyler Johnson maybe takes a little bit more than that. But if Tyler Johnson gets, we look at week 2, say Tyler Johnson gets 93.5, takes all of that, you still get 61% route participation for Arian Smith. So that gives us a little bit of clarity on the Jets receivers. Still not like I want to be playing a ton of Arian Smith, because generally Justin Fields not looking going through too many receivers in his regression. He's just going to take off running if he can't find somebody open early. So not a huge priority, but I think Arian Smith is somebody to maybe mix into your field a little bit with Tyler Johnson out. And he'll probably come in at virtually zero ownership as we're seeing projected here. Okay. Miami, also interesting. Tyreek Hill, obviously the top receiver on Miami, as I said, expecting to be shadowed by Sauce Gardner, maybe hurts him a little bit. He's 6,500 projected for 55% ownership. RG has him at 51% ownership. I think, having around 50% Tyreek Hill seems good to me. I want to have at least 35%. If I had less than 35%, I would want to recrunch or rerun my lineups until I get at least 35%. Clearly has the ability to break the slate, even in a tough matchup with Sauce Gardner. But it does, again, make me like Jalen Waddle a little bit better. So I prefer T. Higgins to Jalen Waddle, but I think Jalen Waddle, stronger play here also because Tyreek Hill is going to get that shadow coverage. 32.5% ownership going to Jalen Waddle. I think I'd like to be over that number. Again, I do like T. Higgins a little bit better, but I think Jalen Waddle, also a pretty strong play here. Run the Sims has him at 28% ownership. So I'll lean into the backup wide receivers a little bit. Hill, like if I got to 55%, I'm not trying to cut below that. I think Tyreek Hill is obviously a strong play, but not somebody that I'm like forcing my way to be overweight to or anything like that. We can look at let's see. On the season so far, Hill has 23 targets on 75.9% route participation. Jalen Waddle, 17 targets on 76.9% route participation. So neither of them getting like a crazy high workload, but good enough. They've also had some blowouts where they lost some of their playing time. Malik Washington would be the third option that I would consider here. I actually think Malik Washington, one of the better, contrarian value plays here. 12 targets on the season on 64.8% route participation. Also has, I believe, 6 carries on the year. And those carries are often going to come in situations where like they're in the red zone. They're trying to, get somebody into the end zone. He might get some of those end around carries. So 12 targets, 6 carries, 64.8% route participation. He's only 3,500, not getting a ton of ownership. Run the Sims has him at 5% projected ownership. RG has him at 7.5% projected ownership. I think that's totally reasonable. Not like I'm trying to be well over the field there, but at those ownership numbers, I think he's a relatively strong play. I don't think I'm going to get to any NWI or D Eskridge, just not strong enough workloads. If we look at the route participation report, NWI just 17% last week, has 33% week 1 and then down from there. D Eskridge just 6% on a 2-gamer. You don't kind of need to go that low. Maybe playable, or maybe NWI playable for Showdown, but for the 2-gamer, I don't think you need to go there. And then finally, the Broncos. Again, it is a great matchup for Broncos receivers. A lot of different ways to play it. We also, during the show, we're not going to know whether Marvin Mims is playing. I think he's truly questionable. So it's kind of hard to break it down without that knowledge. And again, not going to get that info until an hour and a half before that game starts, and that is the second game. So unfortunately, we're not going to know during the show whether Marvin Mims is playing. But I think the two that you have to start with for the Broncos are Courtland Sutton and Troy Franklin anyway. And I don't think Marvin Mims actually impacts them all that much. Courtland Sutton, 21 targets on the year on 78.5% route participation. Get right spot for sure against this Broncos defense. Looks like a pretty strong play, getting around 50% ownership across the board. I think that is pretty strong. I think I might even end up a little bit overweight on Cortland Sutton. Not too much. I think he's a strong play, but so does the field. 50% getting the ownership there, and then Troy Franklin is just 4,100. So he's a really strong value play considering his role. Again, on the season, Troy Franklin 19 targets, so just 2 fewer targets than Cortland Sutton. 73.8% route participation. He's been playing well. He's been running the routes. On the season, well, we've seen him. His route participation has gone up each week. 55.8% in week 1, 84.4, 87.5 in week 3 for Troy Franklin. Actually matched Cortland Sutton in week 3. Has a role, honestly, not that dissimilar to Cortland Sutton so far this year, and he's only 4,100. So Troy Franklin looks pretty great, coming in at 26% ownership here, 18% at Run the Sims. I think I'll be over those numbers. I think he is a pretty strong play, even with, generally I'm going to be playing fewer wide receivers. So maybe I don't come in too high over that number because I do want, generally I'm going to have a lot of 3 running back teams, but I think I'll work him in at least 2, like the extent of the field is around 25-30%. You maybe don't need the salary savings as much, but it's a great matchup. Certainly can put up 20-25 fantasy points in a game if things break right. I think he looks strong. Finally, Marvin Mims, 3,600. Honestly, not a great role so far this year. The route participation 51.2, 31.3, 53.1% so far in 3 games. Just 10 targets through 3 games. Actually doesn't have a carry yet this year. That was part of what we liked about him late last year, was they started using him, occasionally as a running back. And that kind of made you like him, because you get these receivers that have some carries. Often they're getting them in the red zone. Like that's part of what you like about the Malik Washingtons, the running backs who are capable of it. Clearly Marvin Mims is still capable of it. I assume they're not doing it though because they just are trusting their offensive line and the running backs they have. So they're not feeling the need to go to Marvin Mims as a runner. So that kind of does lose a little bit of value. So even if he is active tonight, has not a really great role. So it comes down to ownership. 11% at RG. 2% at Run the Sims. If he does come in at 2%, I would love him at 2%. Like he's 3,600. Clearly, he's capable of putting up some big plays. Had some big weeks last year just with those splash plays. So yeah, if he comes in at 2% ownership at 3,600, I would want to be 5x the field. If he comes in 11%, probably just want to be right with the field there. So we'll have to see if he is active. But again, if he's active, I think probably getting to around 10% seems reasonable. And then behind Marvin Mims, again, we can look at the route share report. So in the week that he played a little bit less, in week 2, 31% route participation that week. We saw Pat Bryant saw a little bit more. Trent Sherfield's been right around 32, 31, 22. So he's lost a little bit of route participation each week. I think Pat Bryant, if Marvin Mims is out, I think Pat Bryant may be viable, but still not. I don't know that I would actually get there. So I think in a 150 set, you could consider getting to some Pat Bryant. Again, let's look where they line up. Marvin Mims, 78% out wide, 18% in the slot. Actually really similar to Pat Bryant. I don't know, not a priority, but I think Bryant becomes a fine play if Marvin Mims is out as the, I guess, potential wide receiver 3 there behind Sutton and Franklin. But really the 2 that you're mostly getting to are Sutton and Franklin, and then either Mims or Bryant, depending on Mims's status there. Anything else on receivers? Let me check in with chat. Let's see. Anthony thinks Aaron Smith better for Showdown. Yeah, that's probably true. Has Sauce been that scary this year? I mean, no, but also I still believe in the talent. So it is true that that cornerback matchups, they can change year over year pretty significantly. Like you'll see elite cornerbacks one year become pretty bad the next year. I still think Sauce Gardner is good. I think that it's just small sample. you can get cooked in one game, and then everybody has off games here or there. You don't know. Didn't sleep well. Maybe he was sick. You never really know. So I don't know. I'm not going to read too much into a small sample size, but that is a good point that like it does actually change year over year pretty significantly. Jake says Egbuka lit him up. He's overrated. Maybe. All right, let's see. Drop and Dime says Hill is the best wide receiver play. He has the most air yards per opportunity that are not capitalized on. Regression is incoming. He will nuke a game very soon. Certainly could be this game. Yeah. What do you think about placing a tight end in the flex to make the lineup different? I don't think I love it on this slate. I just don't think we have strong enough tight end plays to do it on this slate. I'll go over the tight ends next. We do have some that are like sort of interesting, but they're like interesting from a could score 15 fantasy points perspective. And I don't think we need the savings to play two tight ends. So I don't think I'll do it that much. But you are right that it's not going to be used all that much. So maybe in the largest fields, do it a few times, but not a priority for me. How about the third wideout? Yeah, it's Malik Washington. Let's see. I'm really struggling to crank out 20 hand builds, Neil. Please help. What is the very most you would be comfortable leaving tonight? I usually have a good gauge, but I'm under that by a lot. I said in my expert survey, I said I would leave 3,000 with no issue. I'll be building soon, so I actually have not tried building yet. But I think this is a slate where leaving a lot of salary seems pretty viable to me. You'll avoid some dupes there. So yeah, if you're liking your lineups, leaving 4,000 on the table, I think that's totally fine. Just make sure that you're not like look at each one and say, do I think it's actually reasonable that the player I have in could outscore every player up to $4,000 more expensive than them? You have to just think about it from that standpoint. And if you do think that they reasonably could, they have an actual possibility of doing so, then totally reasonable, I think, to leave 4,000 on the table. All right. No, Nick Westbrook-Akine not running enough routes for me on a 2-gamer. Let's see. Drop and Dime says, aren't the cornerback matchups already accounted for in projections? So just trust the projections. Yeah, they should be. They should be accounted for in projections. But I think that they give you a little bit more variance on the projections. So the projection is just going to be, the average essentially. It's not really predicting what's going to happen. It's like what's going to happen in an average game. So I think it's kind of it's one of those, you look at the ownership projections and kind of try to swerve off of what the field is doing. But yes, to answer your question, it should be accounted for in the projections if the projections are any good. And I think the projections, both sources we're looking at here are good projection sources. But it can also affect, the game plan. A lot of it can impact things, I think. Yeah, I think leaving 4,400 with Harvey in your lineup seems fine. If you think, and I think Harvey could put up a strong, top 3 running back score. I think that is well within his range of outcomes. Could also score like 3, so wide range of outcomes there. How much salary on a 2-gamer like this? It really depends on the game, but this particular slate, I think you can leave a lot of salary. Because I wouldn't be that surprised if a lot of the lower price players outscore their higher price counterpoints. Obviously, nobody's going to be shocked if it is like you need Devin Achane, Jamar Chase, and Tyreek Hill, and suddenly like you're using the full salary. That shouldn't shock anybody, but it's also would not be shocking to me to see their teammates outscore them and leave a little salary being more viable. Because there are so many people leaving cash, is this a night to try to get as close to the cap as possible? I don't think that chat here is indicative of what the field at large is going to do. So that like, sure, if most of the field is going to be trying to leave cash, I would agree with you. I don't really think that is going to be the case though. Lazard Dart, I think it's fine. Like we can look at his route participation. It has not been great, 20 to 30%. So I don't think I'm doing it. It's not something that I would highly endorse, 32, 23%. And then the coach speak on Lazard was like, he's still getting up to speed. Actually, let me go. I'll pull up the quote. if I can find it. But that's 23-30%. That's with Josh Reynolds out also. Okay, so this is on the 12th. So it's been a couple weeks, but Aaron Glenn said, I can't say that Alan Lazard is totally caught up, but he's at a place where he can go out there and play. And then he's played 23-30%. I guess since we have the inactives and he is the active, we lost Tyler Johnson. He's still out there. Viable, sure. He's a dart, but not a priority for me by any means. I don't think I get there. I appreciate that. Yeah, I also am stoked that I was able to get over 5,000 subscribers. Appreciate all of you guys supporting me. What happened to McLaughlin, running back Broncos? He found the bottom of the depth chart. Yeah, I don't think he's a thing anymore. They just they're not fans. They found some better running backs this year. Yes, I will do some showdown in a minute. I'm going to build my lineups for the 2-gamer first. Still need to do tight ends here. So let me get into the tight ends because they're actually kind of interesting. Again, I don't love the tight ends on the slate enough that I'm going to be playing a lot of 2 tight end slates, but you can kind of make a case for them for a few of them. So starting with the Jets, Mason Taylor. Actually, I'll pull up all of them on the same screen. So the tight ends are Evan Ingram, 3,700 projected for 26% ownership. Darren Waller, 3,500 projected for 15% ownership. Mike Gesicki, 2,900 projected for 28% ownership. And Mason Taylor, 2,700 projected for 25% ownership are the starting tight ends here. I guess Waller here is only 15% ownership. Let me see. Run the Sims. Oh, they've actually got him pretty low ownership too. Man, that does kind of make him a little bit more interesting if he comes in at 5% ownership. I kind of want to just fade Darren Waller in a game where we're expecting him to be not playing a full workload. But I guess the ownership makes him viable for large field tournaments. But so we have Evan Ingram. Actually, let's pull up schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. So far on the year, once again, great matchup for Denver against Cincinnati. So great matchup for Evan Ingram. Fine matchup for Mason Taylor against Miami. Fine matchup for Mike Gesicki against Denver. Below average matchup for Darren Waller against the Jets. So those are the matchups. Let's take a look at the usage. So Evan Ingram, he's only played 2 games. He missed the last game. On the season so far, 6 targets for Evan Ingram on 34.7% route participation. I think the best case you can make for Evan Ingram is, well, a couple of things. First of all, the matchup really strong against Cincinnati. I do think I'd be kind of surprised if they don't really start using him at some point after all of the coach week. I do think that Sean Payton, he talked about him quite a bit, talked about him in that joker role throughout the offseason. Evan Ingram's going to be our joker. Sounded like he really liked Evan Ingram. I'd be pretty surprised if they don't start using him at some point in a more interesting way. So I think Evan Ingram will be a bigger part of the offense at some point. On the 12th, Sean Payton said on Evan Ingram's utilization, he said he's going to be one of those matchups we want to take advantage of. I'll read off a few quotes here. On the 19th, so just a little week and a half ago, Sean Payton said, Evan Ingram is going to play a big role for us this year. On the 26th, offense coordinator Joe Lombardi was asked what hasn't clicked for Evan Ingram yet. He said, I don't know if there's anything that hasn't clicked. A little bit like with the running backs, we've got a bunch of tight ends that we like, and they'll all do different things well. We're aware of what Ingram's strengths are, and he'll be getting going here real soon, I think. And then on the 27th, 2 days ago, Sean Payton said, Evan Ingram is a full go. He's playing this week. On how important of a piece Ingram is to the offense right now, he said, I think there are certain matchups, third down and red zone come to mind. We're a better offense with him on the field. So I think the fact that he mentioned specifically red zone being a spot that they want to be using Evan Ingram, a lot of the coach speak being, he's going to be a big part of the offense. I think he's a pretty strong play, just based on the coach speak now that he is healthy. But man, limited usage so far this year. Again, prior to missing last week, 27.9% route participation, 43 point. I guess it came up from week 1 to week 2, and then it was hurt in week 3. Sounds like he's a full go this week, though. So Ingram, I think, is a strong enough play. Similarly to Ingram, you've got awesome coach speak on Mason Taylor. He's 2,700 projected for 25% ownership. Run the Sims has him at 39%, so way higher ownership at Run the Sims than Roto Grinders. We have not seen a ton so far from Mason Taylor. Route participation 80%, 80.6% to 61.7% in week 3 on the season. 9 targets on 71.8% route participation, so 3 targets per game so far for Mason Taylor. But the coach speak has been really positive for Mason Taylor. They keep talking about him in the same breath as Breece Hall, which you wouldn't expect Mason Taylor and Breece Hall to be talked about in the same breath, but that is something that the coaches keep doing recently in particular. I'll read just the latest quotes on Mason Taylor. On the 25th, head coach Aaron Glenn said, "We got to get Mason Taylor the ball. We got to get Breece Hall the ball. Those guys are good playmakers for us, and we're doing everything we can to make sure we do that." He also said, he said, "We got to do everything we can to try and get Mason Taylor more involved. He's a dynamic player for us when the ball gets in his hands. Even when the ball isn't in his hands, he's a guy that we all recognize needs to get the ball. He needs to get it. Breece Hall needs to get it. Those guys are playmakers for us. We got to do everything we can to get it in their hands." So noted multiple times that Breece Hall and Mason Taylor are the 2 players that they need to get the ball to more than they are currently. So 3 targets per game already. If they think that's not enough, that's a positive sign for Mason Taylor at 2,700 in a fine matchup there. So couple like reasonably strong tight end options in Ingram and Taylor. Then you've also got Mike Gesicki, now with no Noah Fant. Noah Fant is out for the Bengals. If we look at the route participation for Mike Gesicki, 32% up to 62.5% in week 2, down to 32%. Those are all games with Fant. And the game where he got the big spike was with Fant only playing running 20.8% of the route. So you'd think that Gesicki probably sees a spike in route participation closer to where he was last year with Fant out. Let's look at his route participation last year. So he was around 50% for the first 7 weeks, kind of all over the place, 40s and 50s though, generally. Then he started to see a spike week 8 through 11, 60, 61, 73, 78. Then down at the end of the year, 50, 37, 47, 36. I think Eric All maybe had started to eat into his route participation a little bit. Not really. Who was it? Where was he? Why was he losing? Trying to figure out exactly who was out that he was getting more for a little while there. Regardless, I think expecting Mike Gesicki to get 50 to 60% route participation is probably where we're at. With Noah Fant out, pretty strong offensive playmaker. So I like Gesicki at, again, he's 2,900. If he gets 41% ownership, that's a little bit less appealing, but the role should be better with Noah Fant out. The price is fine. The matchup actually fine, I believe, for tight ends. Not like too far off from average. So I think Gesicki a fine play also. And then Waller has not played yet this year, so it's really tough to know what to expect from Waller in week 1. But they have talked about limiting him some this week. So I don't think he is the lowest priority here for me. Mike McDaniel did say on the 27th, Darren Waller looks firmly ready to contribute, which is why he'll play this week. He's been banged up, though. He's going to be, so on the 22nd, Mike McDaniel said, so this was a week ago, said the plans for Darren Waller to practice and play this week. He will be on a snap count. What that is, it's probably more situational. He has gigantic range and catch radius. He's a very big human being that moves really fast. So he's going to be on a snap count. We don't really know what that snap count is. Kind of a wide range of outcomes there. But I guess if he comes in at 5% ownership, I would want to be over the field. So maybe, getting to 10% Waller and just hoping the field plays it at 5%, I would be pretty happy to be at 10%. So maybe that's kind of the aim for me would be around 10% Waller. So those are the starters. Chris says Sample has an interesting role. Yeah, that he also benefits from Fant being out. So I do think that this is one of those weird slates where I wouldn't play any backup tight ends in the flex or like in two tight end lineups. I think the benefit of playing a backup tight end is lost in those types of lineups generally. What you're hoping for if you play a Drew Sample or Tanner Hudson is that all of the starting receivers fail, which is totally plausible on this slate, that all of them score 5 or fewer fantasy points, and then you get to a touchdown out of a Drew Sample, Tanner Hudson, Jeremy Ruckert, one of the backup tight ends. They score a touchdown and they end up scoring 10 fantasy points, and it's like, all right, you've got a pretty big leg up on the field at low ownership. I just laid out kind of the bull cases for 3 of the starting tight ends, Darren Waller not being one of them. But I think you can make a pretty nice bull case for Gesicki or Evan Ingram or Mason Taylor. So I don't think it's like the likeliest scenario that one of these backup tight ends, if they score a touchdown, is the nuts. Like I think even with a touchdown, there's obviously no guarantee that they would be somebody you want in your lineups. But I think there's some chance that you get a touchdown from a Drew Sample or one of these backup tight ends, and suddenly they are 4 points better than the next best tight end on the slate. So they do they're viable on this. It's a little bit different than a slate where you've got like some real strong tight end options. I think we have some tight end options that have upside and downside, kind of wide ranges of outcomes. Mostly, I'm going to be playing the starters. I think you can. I'll have a good amount of all of Ingram and Taylor and Gesicki, but again, I don't think I'm going to be playing many, maybe not any 2 tight end lineups. I think I'm going to have a mix, maybe 25% each of those 3, maybe even 30% each of those 3, or 28% each of those 3, 10% Darren Waller, and the leftover goes to backup tight ends, that kind of thing. And pick and choose. I don't really have a strong favorite of the backups. All right, let's see. You like Troutman, Sean? I think Troutman fits into that backup tight end plan if you want to go with one. He will be music video ready. Exactly. Can you look at red zone stuff for the tight ends? Let's see. I don't know if there's a way to do it. Maybe I can. Let's see if I go to advanced receiving. I know I can look at end zone targets. Is there actually red zone here? I can look at end zone targets, end zone touchdowns, first read stuff. Let's do here. I can do position. I guess we've got wide receivers. We can just do it with all positions. So Mason Taylor so far on the season hasn't had any end zone targets or touchdowns. He has been the first read 5 times for the Jets. We don't have to look at Dolphins because it's first game with Darren Waller. For the Broncos, Evan Ingram, 0 end zone targets or touchdowns, 5 times the first read in 2 games. So a little bit better rate through 2 games, 11% first read. Gesicki. Again, Gesicki, this is his first game without Fant. He does have 1 end zone target, didn't score a touchdown on it, has 7 first read looks. That's 11.1% also. Did I look at Taylor already? I think I might have. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he was the first one I looked at. 10.2% first read, no end zone targets. Really small sample size. I wouldn't worry too much about those. If one of them, jumped out from a high rate, I would be excited about that. But no, nobody's standing out there. I guess we can look at Bengals anyway, even with Fant there, see if anybody was getting any. Fant did have an end zone target. He's obviously out, but maybe Gesicki benefits even more. Sample does not have any. Grandy does not have any. Hudson has not played, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, Hudson hasn't played yet this year. All right, I think that's enough on the tight ends. Going to make some lineups here. We're praying. We're praying and hoping for a Harvey blowout game. Yes, Kelsey Plum was his wife. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna start making some lineups here. We'll get into Showdown after I run the Sims, make some lineups for myself. I guess we only got an hour left. Time flies. Time really does fly. All right, so in using Run the Sims, again, if you want to check out Run the Sims, you can use promo code Neil to get 10% off your first payment on any of their products. For my first run, I don't do anything to the inputs. I just leave the inputs as they are and see what I get out. So I'm going to change the settings just to what I'm playing here. So I'm going to do 10,000 lineups, field of 15,000, number of Sims 10,000. I'm going to do a top heavy payout structure because the large field stuff I play is all top heavy. And then let's see. Don't know how many lineups I'm playing. 176 entries. So I'm going to let me look at my spreadsheet real quick. I think it looks good. Yeah, looks fine. So I'm going to do Shady Portfolio Optimizer for 176. This is tool from Shady Advice, one of the best DFS players in the world. And what sets him apart from other pros is his portfolio optimization. Rather than just playing all the top EV lineups that he gets from his process, he plays the top portfolio of lineups. So he's going to play a lot of lineups that do not cannibalize each other, give him lower risk of ruin. So really powerful tool that I like to have on here. Now I'm going to click the Sim Runner Pro button. Sims are now running. Do the Sims not make lineups that are more than triple stacks? Can't find a single quarterback +4. They certainly would if you, I mean, if you want that type of lineup, you can turn up the pass rate for a team. I'm sure you can get some. Probably just they're not showing up as plus EV. Yes, please do hit the like button. Appreciate that. Jake thinks Ollie Gordon's going to be optimal for Showdown. Could be. How much for the Sims and Optimizer? It is, so this is the Sim Runner Pro button. So with the Sims with the Shady Portfolio Optimizer is $300 a month. If you use promo code Neil, it'll be $270 a month, or it is, I believe, $1,300 annually. So it'd be $1,170 if you use the promo code. Without the Portfolio Optimizer, it would be $200 a month or $180 with promo code Neil for your first month. And then they have other options like the Optimizer is, I want to say like $30 a month. If you want to do that, there's an option that it's like Optimizer plus you can sim 5 lineups or something like that. One player you need to have tonight that's under 25% owned on the 2-game slate. Let's see. I mean, RJ Harvey is my favorite. Higgins is 31%, so he's a little bit over that threshold. Yeah, it's probably RJ Harvey would be my answer there. Is the one that at least I hope that he is. To be clear, wide range of outcomes, floor really low there. They don't show up at all using filters, but I mean, if you change the inputs to increase the passing rate for a team, I would imagine at some point you're going to get to more than triple stacks. Like I don't think that they have any like rules that don't allow triple stacks or anything like that. It's probably just that like there's no team that you need to get there, and probably the Sims are going to give you a lot of 3 running back builds, I think. So then probably just the triple stacks, like after you play Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, it's choosing between, are we going to go to Malik Washington now or Jamar Chase? And it's just, I'm guessing the third wide receiver option from that team just doesn't look as good relative to third options on other teams. Interest. So the top lineup you see here, and actually, 1 second here. The top lineup you see here has Cortland Sutton in the flex. So it actually has a receiver in the flex. It is a triple stack of Bo Nix with Troy Franklin, Evan Ingram, and Cortland Sutton. Then a lot of Dolphins with Devin Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and the Dolphins defense, and Chase Brown. So highly correlated with the Dolphins and the Broncos. But then the next several all have running back in the flex, which is kind of my expectation. A lot of Bo Nix stacks at the top. I should note these are not in order of EV. That's because I'm using the Shady Portfolio Optimizer, so it's giving them a little bit out of order in the order of how you would play them for your portfolio, so they're not going to cannibalize each other too much. If you don't use the Shady Portfolio Optimizer, if you don't click that button, it'll just give you the lineups in order of EV if you wanted to sort through them yourself. So a lot of Bo Nix stacks. The fifth lineup is Tua with Devin Achane and Waddle and Hill. Triple stack there with just a Breece Hall bring back with Cortland Sutton, Evan Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, and the Broncos. Let's take a look at my exposures. So at quarterback, getting to 71% Bo Nix, 4% Justin Fields, 23% Tua Tagovailoa, 1% Jake Browning. Probably more Nix than I think I need. So I am going to cut back on that. I do like Fields a little bit better than 4%. Tua I like quite a bit, and then Jake Browning. I want to have more than 1% Jake Browning. But it is worth noting that this is even with the portfolio optimizer on, you can still get pretty big stands like this. You're going to get a lot of different types of Bo Nix stacks, but the optimizer, the Sims is just really liking the Bo Nix stacks right now. They're showing up as the highest EV. At running back, 100% Devin Achane. Yeah, I think he's the best running back on the slate. I don't know that I want 100%. I'll cut back on that some. 68% Breece Hall, 62% Chase Brown, 29% J.K. Dobbins, 3% Ollie Gordon. Not getting to any currently of R.J. Harvey or Braylon Allen. So I'm obviously going to be making some changes to get to the players that I want to get to. At wide receiver, we're getting to 68% Tyreek Hill, 79% Cortland Sutton, 22.5% Garrett Wilson, 16% Jamar Chase, which I think is just because of this 76% ownership projection. It doesn't like him for tournaments. 49% Jalen Waddle, 21% T. Higgins, 44% Troy Franklin, 35% Marvin Mims, 3% Malik Washington, 1% Josh Reynolds, and then none of Yoshivas or any of the other receivers here. I'm going to actually have to refresh also because we got the inactive. So I'm going to rerun after I refresh. Getting to 59% Evan Ingram, 10% Mason Taylor, 14% Mike Gesicki, 11% Adam Troutman. That's kind of interesting. 4% Darren Waller, a little bit of Tanner Hudson, a little bit of Drew Sample, Tanner Connor, Lucas Krull. And then defenses fairly spread out here, just 9% of the Bengals, but 29% Dolphins, 24% Jets, 38% Broncos. All right, so now I'm going to redo this after I change the inputs to get to more of the players I like. I am first going to refresh and reset. I will run a showdown after I'm done. After I'm done with these. We're just waiting on Marvin Mims is the biggest one. Yes, Jerry, I was at Stochastic a couple years ago. It's been a couple years now. All right, I'm going to go back to this slate, reset all. I haven't actually changed anything. All right, so I think that the first thing that I'm going to do is I know that I want more of the Broncos passing game and I want a little bit less of Bo Nix. So I'm just going to move up the rush rate here from 46% to 48%. And I'm also going to move Bo Nix's rushing market share from 20% to 10%. And I'm going to move up RJ Harvey's. And actually, I should be smart adjusting these. Actually, I'm going to refresh and do this again. Reset all. Okay, I think I did that right. Yep, we're good. I'm going to click Smart Adjust now. I'm going to change the rush rate to 48%. Move Bo Nix's rushing market share from 20% to 10%. I clicked Smart Adjust, so what that did is it proportionally moved down his touchdown market share as well. So I cut his market share in half, the percent of the rush that I expect him to get. It also moved his touchdown market share in half to 12.8%. I'm also going to move up RJ Harvey from 20% to 30%. I didn't do that right. And that moved up his touchdown market share as well. So now I should get to more of RJ Harvey and potentially more J.K. Dobbins because I moved up the rush rate. I also want more T. Higgins. I know that already. I think I'm not getting. Oh, and here's the issue. The reason I'm not getting too much T. Higgins or Jamar Chase is the ownership number on Jamar Chase, but also only projected to score 18 points. I'm going to move up the points scored to just to 19, just a little bit. Move the pace up to 60, and then I'm going to move up T. Higgins' market share. I'm going to move him. I'm going to take a stand here. Move T. Higgins up to 24%. And I think this will get me. I mean, we now have Higgins and Chase both at about the same receiving market share. Chase just a little bit more. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not going to get to any Chase with this number. I'm actually going to move his ownership down to where it is elsewhere. So I'm going to move it down to 62%. All right, let's try this without making any other changes. I just want to see if this is enough to get closer to where I want to be. Settings. So again, I have to move number of lineups to 10,000, contest field, number of sims, top heavy, shady portfolio. And again, I don't change any of the other settings because the sims are doing play-by-play sims and contest level sims, so they should be, stacking to the extent that I should on their own. So I don't need to tell it to. I don't need to tell it about salary. It should be doing that for me. Now I'm going to click Sim Runner Pro. All right. Every other rookie running back broke out this week. Why not Harvey? Exactly. Why not Harvey? I like that you have naked fields and Dolphins and defense same lineup. No issue with that. Any stands on salary left on the table? And I like this. I'm in between Sutton or Franklin. Yeah, I think leaving, if you want to leave 2,000 on the table by playing Franklin over Sutton in the hand build there, I think that's totally viable. Yeah, I think this is a slate where I'll probably have a lot of lineups that leave between 1,500 and 3,500 on the table. Is my guess. I actually didn't look at it closely. We'll take a look at it after I run these. This tool does not have a late swap option for NFL, so you would need to have some kind of a backup plan. Do you think Cincy as a whole comes in lower than projected ownership-wise? Maybe. Like run the Sims ownership, I think probably a little bit lower. Dobbins, Gesicki, or Brown Taylor in a Fields lineup. Probably Dobbins, Gesicki be where I'd go. Is Brown into Chase and Higgins going to be low owned? It actually probably will be pretty low owned. That's actually a good call. Like that, just like it seems so obvious. Nobody's gonna be shocked if it wins, but also it's gonna be pretty low owned. I like that call. Yes, Mike. I know that I'm your hero. Congrats, by the way. $10,000 win on FanDuel yesterday for Mike. Would you roster both Sutton and Franklin in the same lineup on Showdown? Yeah, certainly. What's your backup late swap optimizer? That's a good question. I have not actually had to deal with it yet. I think I would probably use the solver if I have to late swap it, or just like depending on how many I have of the player. Like if it's Mims and I have a lot of Mims, if I have like 50 shares, I would probably go into the solver. If I only have like 10 or 15, I'd probably just do it by hand. Just go in and swap him to Franklin if I have the salary, or Yoshivas or Pat Bryant in some of them. Could just do it by hand. Calculating payouts. I didn't even talk about the defenses. I don't have any big defensive stands here. I think I'll be pretty spread out at defense. I think generally the Broncos stand out as the best option, just a really strong defensive line against a weak offensive line. I think the Jets against Tua actually really strong play also, but if you want to play some Miami, hope that they get some pressure on Fields. I think that's viable. I think the Bengals are going to go low owned. So I don't have any really strong defensive stands. I think if I were, it would always be obviously lineup dependent. Nice thing about Sims is it's going to give you defenses that make sense in your lineup. Mims is questionable. We don't know. So we'll get he might not play. If he does play, I think I assume that he's a full go. DraftKings does have player replace like FanDuel. It just the difference is on DraftKings, you can't swap up in salary. So like if it is Mims, I forget, is he 3,600? You can't swap up to anybody who is higher than 3,600. So even if your lineup has the salary to swap up to a player that's 4,100, you can't do it on DraftKings. For a global late swap, you can still go in and change it by hand to a higher player, but you can't do a global late swap to a higher player. On FanDuel, if you try to do it, they'll say it worked for 5 of your 15 lineups. You were able to swap up to this player, and then you have to do it again with different player, whatever. DraftKings just does not let you do it. Do you like Chase Brown over Higgins in flex? I mean, I'm really high on Higgins, but probably most of the time I would have more Chase Brown. Calculating payouts. Yeah, I honestly, late swap has always been tricky for me with Sims tools. I'm sure you can get good at it. I have not. This is my first year, honestly, really seriously using a Sims tool. So it's not really on the tool. It's really me. Diversifying payouts. The lineups have been sent to Shady Advice. Yeah, for hoops, you definitely need late swap because you also need to do it like at a moment's time. Usually in the NFL, you get inactive, so you have an hour and a half to make your late swaps. So timing isn't that crucial. But for NBA, you obviously need the ability to do late swaps quick. In a 5,000 person tournament, I mean, just make sure you like your lineup, but I would probably make sure I'm leaving at least like 500 on the table. But I haven't looked that closely at lineup, so let's take a look. So this first one, top lineup now is Bo Nix with Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, and Evan Ingram. Has a Chase Brown bring back, also has Devin Achane, Breece Hall, Tyreek Hill, Dolphins defense. See this one, the top lineup here leaves 2,100 on the table. Look at the salaries here. Second lineup just leaves 500 on the table. Third lineup 2,300. Fourth lineup 1,800. Fifth lineup actually uses the full salary. Sixth lineup leaves 2,600. So kind of a wide range here of salaries in the top lineups. None of them leave more than this one leaves 3,300. Curious if I scroll down, I'm going to find any lower than like 46,000. I don't think I'm seeing any. Unless I scroll past one. So we're not getting any that are leaving more than 4,000 on the table. Most are leaving a little bit on the table, but not a crazy high number. 3,300. I'm seeing some places. Interesting. Oh, here, this one leaves 5,500 on the table. That one has Bo Nix with Devin Achane, Breece Hall, Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, Mike Gesicki, Chase Brown. Jets defense leaves 5,500 on the table. So that's interesting. It's the triple stack with Franklin and Marvin Mims is why I'm getting there. All right, let me look at my exposures. So again, at quarterback, I moved down how much I was getting to of Bo Nix quite a bit by moving up the rush rate and removing his rush rate, but still getting to 41%, so close to where I want to be. I moved up Browning and Tua. I did not get much more of Justin Fields. That's kind of interesting. 21% Browning, 33% Tua. I would want more than 4% of Justin Fields, but it worked to get me a little bit closer to where I wanted to be. Running backs, I'm still at 100% Devin Achane, 57% Breece Hall, 61% Chase Brown, 39.5% J.K. Dobbins, up to 5% R.J. Harvey. So I need to give him a little bit more of the workload, or actually maybe even boost the rushing rate even more than it is right now. 0.3% Ollie Gordon, none of Braylon Allen. So I want more of those guys. But it worked out. I'm a little bit closer to where I want to be. I'm just gonna run the Sims one more time, and then I'm going to get to the Showdown slate. Or maybe I'll start doing Showdown while the Sims are running. Wide receiver at 73.5% Tyreek, 63.5% Cortland Sutton, 20% Garrett Wilson, 34% Jamar Chase, 41. Okay, good. Got more T. Higgins now. 49% Jalen Waddle, 30% Troy Franklin, 24% Marvin Mims, none of Josh Reynolds, 2% Malik Washington, none of the other tertiary options. Tight ends, 58% Evan Ingram, 25% Mike Gesicki, 7% Mason Taylor, 4% Adam Troutman, 3% Tanner Hudson. All right, here's what I'm going to do, and then defense is pretty spread out. I'm going to, first of all, I didn't realize how much. I guess we still have 35 minutes, but we're getting a little bit crunch for time here. I am going to download these lineups just to make sure I've got some lineups to put in. I'm going to run another crunch now, and then I'll get into Showdown while these are running. All right. So now going back to the inputs. All right, so starting with the Jets, I definitely want a little bit more of Fields. I think I can just move up the pace slightly, move up his rushing marker. I'm also not getting much Braylon Allen. I'm going to move it to 22 points scored. Move up Fields' share of the rushing to 34%. And Braylon Allen's up to 19%. Click normalize. Don't think I need any Isaiah Davis, so I might just cut him out. Then move Braylon Allen up to 19%. Okay. Wasn't getting any Josh Reynolds. I might want a little bit more there, so I'm going to move him up to 16%. Aaron Smith up to 11%. I'm going to dock Lazard. I think I'm okay just not getting Allen Lazard. Also want to move Mason Taylor up. I'm just going to get rid of Allen Lazard, I think. And Isaiah Williams. Reynolds up to 17%. Braylon Allen up to 5%. Let's normalize that. On the Dolphin side, getting to 100% Devin Achane. I don't know that I need to get to 100% Devin Achane. I don't remember where I was at in terms of Waddle and Hill and Washington. So let me look at that again real quick. Getting to a ton of Hill. I wouldn't mind getting less Hill. 49% Waddle, pretty happy with that. Not getting to much Malik Washington. Not getting to much Darren Waller. So maybe I can change those inputs a little bit. I want to get to more Malik Washington. just a bit. I should smart adjust that. Yeah, let's move up a little bit more. Maybe a little bit of Darren Waller. I'll move him up to 8%. Also wasn't getting too much Ollie Gordon. I'm going to move him up to, I'm going to move up his rushing share to 42% and move Devin Achane down to 50%. And click normalize. All right. And then on the Bengals, I got to a little bit more T. Higgins, and I moved Jamar Chase's ownership down. That worked a little bit. I'm going to move up T. Higgins again. Just slightly. Wouldn't mind getting to some Yoshivas. You can get rid of the Tinsley and Jones. Maybe get some more Gesicki. All right, let's do that. Then on the Broncos, I would like to get to even more of RJ Harvey. So I'm going to move up the rush rate even a little bit more. Move RJ Harvey up to, make sure the smart adjust is working, 33%. 8%, not 88%, 8%. Just going to get rid of Bidet. I'll leave Mims in there for now. It's getting to way too much Evan Ingram. But maybe just moving up the others will be enough to get to them instead. All right, so I'm going to try running the Sims again. All right, and while those are running, I'm also going to bring up Showdown. I guess I'll just go over it quickly on the RG pages a little bit quicker. So for the Jets-Miami game, captain Devin Achane, 20% looks awesome. Fields, I want to get more than 17%. I think both of those look like they're actually under-owned at these ownership numbers. Wilson, Hall look great. That's probably a bit too much on Ollie Gordon. I think you're going to be funneled to a lot of similar lineups to everybody else if you play Ollie Gordon at captain. So I think I prefer him in the flex. I mean, Tyreek at 2% captain would be an insanely good play. Like that would stand out as a play I really want to get to a lot of. Where's Jalen Waddle? Waddle at virtually 0 is way too low. So yeah, I'd be going to the Miami receivers primarily if these are the ownership numbers. I'd rather play Mason Taylor than Ollie Gordon at the same price. Much lower ownership. But generally, Miami receivers and then these top guys, Devin Achane, Fields, Wilson, Hall, are where I'd like to go. If you play Tua, you want to be at least double stacking. If you have Tua captain, I think you can include Achane as part of that stack, but you'd want him to be multi-stacked there. Fields at captain with a big stack might be a little bit contrarian. So if you play Fields with Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor and Josh Reynolds and another receiver of some sort, I think that could be kind of an interesting contrarian lineup. In the flex, yeah, Fields getting a lot of Fields, and Achane, that's what you want, I think. Breece Hall is only 8,000, so yeah, I feel Breece Hall looks pretty great here. Tyreek Hill is 11,000, so I guess he's pretty expensive. I guess that's why you're not going to get as much at captain. Man, Malik Washington, 32% is... I really want to play Malik Washington, but at 32% ownership, doesn't really stand out as a great play. Jalen Waddle's 10,000. Okay. So this is why you're not getting much at captain. They're both just too expensive, but they're kind of nice pay up to be contrarian options. I think Waddle, I don't know if I want to get more than 25% at 10,000. Mason Taylor looks great though. 2.8K for 24% ownership. I think I like that play. Isaiah Davis, a pretty strong min price play here. He's getting 22% ownership, so I guess less strong at 22% ownership. Again, the defenses stand out pretty significantly here. Jets at 13%, Dolphins at 10%. I'd like to get a lot of the defenses in my lineups. Waller, if he comes in at 6%, will look great. Nick Folk at 13% looks awesome. Riley Patterson at 14% looks awesome. So yeah, kickers and defenses. This looks like a really strong kickers and defenses slate to me. Ruckert, fine at 1,800. Jalen Wright, honestly, contrarian 200. They've said they want to get him touches at some point. Josh Reynolds, he's going to get some ownership. This can't be right. He's going to get a little bit at 3,400, but probably not a ton. I'm going to actually run my Showdown sim here for this game. So again, I'm going to start by not making any changes there. I'm going to change number of lineups to 15,000, top heavy, shady diversifier. All right, these sims are still running, so let's see. I'm playing 171 in that game. So let me start running those before I make any changes. Oh, can I run? Yeah, I can run. Good. Running multiple sims at once. $13 more likes to 100. Can we get there? Nice call out, Dan. If you could like the video, would appreciate it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. People saying Mims is active. We got the news already. That's awesome. Oh, Lucas Krull. Lucas Krull has been marked as out. Interesting. So we got some news. Does that game start earlier than I think it does? What time does that game start? I guess I was assuming that one starts like 3 hours later. No, it only starts 1 hour. Okay, so we got our inactives. Nice. All right. That's awesome. I did not realize we're going to get inactives during the stream. So let me look at that. Good to know that we can get Lucas Krull out of our lineups too. Jermaine Burton also inactive. Okay. What contest? I'm playing minimally in the flagship. I'm not spending a ton of money on these slates. I'm playing the 20 max and the mini max, and then a little bit in the more expensive stuff. All right, let me see. Mims to be active. All right, let's see. Broncos inactives. Tula McLaughlin inactive again. Lucas Krull inactive. All right, good. Good to have that news. Some clarity. And then do we get anything interesting on the Bengals side? Yeah, just Burton. Fant, we already knew. Okay. Sweet. All right, I'm worried that this is stalling out. So I'm going to give it a couple more minutes before I refresh. Yeah, because my Showdown sim is almost done already. For some reason, running the sims while I'm streaming causes issues. All right, Showdown sims. Top lineup again. This is not sorted in order of EV. A lot of very plus EV lineups here though. Top lineup: Justin Fields, Aaron Smith, Breece Hall, Devon Achane, Ollie Gordon, Tua Tagovailoa, Breece Hall, Arian Smith, Devon Achane, Garrett Wilson, Justin Fields, Ollie Gordon, Breece Hall at the top a lot. A lot with Arian Smith making it into a lot of the top lineups here. We did get an Ollie Gordon captain lineup near the top that only leaves 300 on the table. Shows up as plus EV here. A lot of these lineups using most of the salary is sort of a concern for me. Let me look at my exposures. Quarterbacks getting to a lot of Justin Fields, as I would hope. Fair amount of Tua also. Achane 64 in the flex, 19 at captain. That looks good to me. Breece Hall 56 and 12. Ollie Gordon 35 and 6. So a lot of Ollie Gordon. Man, a lot of Alec Ingold. 17% Alec Ingold is significant. Braylon Allen not getting into any at 7,000. 15% projected ownership. That makes sense. 4% Isaiah Davis. Wide receiver getting to 33 and 15 of Tyreek Hill. So yeah, he's looking good at captain. Garrett Wilson 32 and 10. Malik Washington 14 and 5. Jalen Waddle 11 and none at captain. I might want to get to a little bit at 10,000. I think there's some upside there. Josh Reynolds 23 and 5. Aaron Smith 32 and 1. So he's showing up a lot at the top, but not still just 33% total. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine actually getting 20%. So that's a fine showdown play that I'm not playing on the 2-game slate. Alan Lazard 4%. D. Eskridge 0.5%. No Isaiah Williams. Tight ends, I'm getting to just 4% Mason Taylor. I think I want to increase that a little bit. 4% Tanner Connor, 2% Jeremy Ruckert, none of Darren Waller, 0.4% Julian Hill. Defenses, not getting too much of the defenses, 6.5% Jets, 9.5% Dolphins. So I want to increase that. Kickers, 24% Riley Patterson, 2.4% Nick Folk. So some changes I want to make to the inputs there. Okay, my sims are done again for the main. So on the 2-gamer now, Justin Fields with Garrett Wilson is the top lineup there. We've got bringbacks of Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill, J.K. Dobbins in there, Mike Gesicki, Chase Brown, Broncos defense. Second lineup, Jake Browning, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki. We're triple stacking it with an R.J. Harvey bringback, Devon Achane, Tyreek Hill, J.K. Dobbins, Broncos defense. Let me look at my exposures. So I'm now down to 99% Devon Achane. Quarterback, we're up to 16% Justin Fields, 26% Bo Nix, 31.5% Tua, 27% Jake Browning. Interesting. Could use a little bit less Browning there, but that's okay. 99% Achane, 51% Breece Hall, 53% Chase Brown, 52% J.K. Dobbins, 17% R.J. Harvey. So getting closer to where I'd like to be. 2.8% Ollie Gordon, none of Braylon Allen. I'd be okay. I'm okay with that. Wide receivers, 30% Garrett Wilson, 59% Tyreek Hill, 47% Cortland Sutton, 48% Jamar Chase, 57% T. Higgins, 37% Jalen Waddle, 21% Troy Franklin, 5% Josh Reynolds, 14% Marvin Mims, 7% Malik Washington. Didn't get any Arian Smith or Andre Yoshivas on the main. Tight ends, now we're up to 17% Mason Taylor, 39% Mike Gesicki, 31% Evan Ingram, 7% Darren Waller, 4% Troutman, 1% Hudson, 2% Sample. And then defense, 57% Broncos, 17, I don't want that, I don't think. 17% Jets, 19.5% Dolphins, 7% Bengals. Okay, so I don't love that I'm getting that much of one defense, but in general, happier with this set of lineups. So I am going to download these. Let's see, your custom lineups. No, graded lineups. And it was, how many did I do? 176. All right. Getting to a ton of Jake Browning and the Broncos defense is kind of interesting. I mean, a ton, like 27%. All right. All right, I'm going to run another set of sims, and then get back to Showdown. Just pretty happy with my quarterbacks in general. Mostly happy, I think, with what I was getting from the Jets. Might want to increase their sack rate just a little bit. Bringing that up to 8%. Get a little bit more there. On the Dolphins, maybe I want just a little bit more Waddle. So I'm going to bring Waddle's receiving market share up to 19%. It's getting to a little bit of Malik Washington, Darren Waller. Also going to bring their sack rate up to 8%. Good. Might still want a little bit more of RJ Harvey than I'm getting right now. I'm going to bring down Jake Browning's rushing market share a little bit to 8%. That might just give me more of Chase Brown than I want, is the one concern there. I'm going to bring it back up to 10. Might want a little bit more Yoshi. All right, still get a lot of T. Higgins, I think. It's getting more Gesicki, which I like. I think I'm okay not getting that much of the Bengals, but I'll bring them up to 5% sack rate. And then, yeah, RJ Harvey, I'm going to move up to 35%. I was getting to a little bit of Mims, Franklin, Sutton. Got to get rid of Lucas Krull. Can spread that out. Give Troutman now 6%. Engram 13%. Pat Bryant. No, probably don't need to get there with Marvin Mims active. All right, now I'm going to normalize. Good. I'll normalize up here also. I don't know. I'm at 100%. All right, I need to manually do this. Let's do take out Taj Brooks. Hudson down to 6%. All right. Now I'm going to run it. All right. And while that's running, I'm going to go do Showdown again. So I'm not going to download that yet. I guess I will. I'm going to download because I don't have any lineups in yet. So I'm going to download 171 lineups. For Showdown. Also download this. Put those in. I will check in on chat again in a minute. Just kind of a time crunch here, obviously. All right, we got some Showdown lineups in at least. All right, I'll check in on chat before I run Showdown again real quick. Yeah, I'm doing working on the Showdown right now. So just went over some of that. Yeah, nice. Got over 100. Appreciate you guys. All right. Tyreek Hill could smash, absolutely. All right. Good. All right, I'm going to run these again. No limits on MIMS, Silas says. That's all right. It's intriguing because they'll probably go a little bit lower owned because people are assuming limits. So might want to get to a little bit of MIMS. All right. So again, inputs, what do I want to do here? I'm going to, don't think I really need any Braylon Allen, honestly, at 7,000. I already get into some Isaiah Davis and some Josh Reynolds and Aaron Smith. Might want a little bit of Lazard. I think I was getting, I wasn't getting much Mason Taylor, right? Let me check again. Yeah, I want to get to more Mason Taylor. I think that's a priority for me. I'm at 4% Lazard, so that's not too far off where I want to be. Getting a 20% Nick Westbrook-Ikine. I think the biggest thing I wanted to change in my exposures was kickers and defenses. I want a little bit more. A lot more. All right, so I'm going to, I think I'm okay with just that much Allen Lazard. But I want more Mason Taylor. I'm going to smart adjust up to 15%. Oops, not 154%. That's too much. 15% market share of the receiving. Going to bring up Nick Folk's projection to 8. Bring up the sack rate for the Jets to 9. Pretty high sack rate there. Bring up the sack rate for the Dolphins to 9. I want more of Hill and Waddle in the captain, I think. So I'm just going to bring down their captain ownership, bring Waddle down to 2% captain ownership, see if that's enough to get more there. Hill down to 7%. Riley Patterson at 9.2 projection. Maybe let's leave that. I'll bring him to 10. And try to run these again. I got to normalize. Okay. All right, back to the main. Also, speculative crawl news increases snaps for Ingram. I think that's a reasonable assumption. Yeah. HN is so chalky in the Sims. Oh, yeah. He is very chalky. I probably should have cut back my HN a little bit more because I actually don't want 99%. I think he's a great play, but it's just risky to have, 99% of any player. I guess I'm playing low enough stakes. Like, what's the real risk here? But I just, my worry is always like, what if I get everything else right and just that one player gets hurt in the second quarter and all my lineups are dead? It's just so devastating. So, which is probably not the right way to play. But as somebody who likes to sweat my lineups as well as, try and make money, it can be. I don't usually like to have 100% exposure across my portfolio. Hall or Chase Brown. Probably Hall. I think Hall's coming in at lower ownership. I mean, they're both great plays. But Hall's a little bit cheaper and coming in at lower ownership. Looks great. Chase Brown in a nice spot here. They do want to get him going, but yeah, it's that one's a really close one, but I think I'd go Hall. Diversifying payouts. This one's going a lot quicker. All right. Now the top lineup is a Tua with HN, Hill, Waddle. We are getting HN in all of them at the top here. Yeah, we're getting a lot of HN. Let's see if we have 100%. We have 99.6%, so I wouldn't mind bringing that down a little bit, but 49% Hall, 55% Chase Brown, 41% J.K. Dobbins, up to 24% R.J. Harvey, so that's good. 4% Ollie Gordon. Wide receivers, Garrett Wilson, 20. Oh, man, I want more than that of Garrett Wilson, I think. 68% Tyreek Hill, 43% Jamar Chase, 50% Cortland Sutton, 53% Higgins, 49%, 50% Waddle, 21% Franklin, 1% Josh Reynolds, 3% Malik Washington, 12% Marvin Mims, no Yoshivas, Arian Smith. Tight ends are at 19% Gesicki, 14% Mason Taylor, 36.5% Ingram, 20% Troutman now, damn. 10% Darren Waller, none of Drew Sample. Defense is still a lot of the Broncos, but I brought it down a little bit. All right, I'm gonna try to get one more in. Probably won't be able to, but we'll see. I want to get to a little bit less of Achane, I think. So maybe I bring up the. Actually, I'm gonna bring their points scored down to 23. So I'm getting to a lot in general of the Dolphins, and I'm going to bring up Ollie Gordon to 41% market share. All right, let's try that. Probably not enough to get away from it too much, but I don't want to get away from it that much anyway. Pace down to 57. Yeah, I think that's better. Do I want more Josh Reynolds? I think I'm okay with it. Fields. Wasn't going to do any Yoshiva still. Bring him up to 11%. Normalize. Nope, that didn't work. Gonna bring Hudson down to 3%. All right, so I won't get any Hudson. Maybe I'll bring Troutman down to 5%. Ingram up to 14%. See if that does anything for me. And RJ Harvey up to 36%. All right, we'll see. We'll see if this gets done. Showdown lineups are in. Look at my exposures. Still a lot of Achane. I like that. A lot of Gordon. A little bit of Ingold. Brought that down a little. Still just 2.5% Isaiah Davis. Fair amount of Breece Hall. 15% captain. 58%. Quarterbacks. Yeah, still a ton of Justin Fields. A little bit of Tua. That all looks good. Wide receivers. Up to 10% captain Tyreek Hill. Man, just 1% Jalen Waddle. I tried to bring that up by bringing down the ownership. Still not a lot there. Getting to a lot of Arian Smith, Josh Reynolds, Nick Westbrook-Akine. Only 1.5% Allen Lazard. That's fine. 14% Malik Washington, 1% a captain. Still not much Garrett Wilson. Got to 38% Riley Patterson, up to 7% Nick Folk. So didn't bring up my kickers that much. Defenses did not bring them up as much as I would like to. It's too late for me to do more here, I think. Did I get to more Taylor? At least I got to 10 and 2%. Generally didn't quite get to where I'd like to be here. Would probably like to make some more adjustments, but not going to have time for the showdown. Not going to prioritize it. I'm just going to download these lineups. The downside of two slates starting at the same time. Let's see here. And then I will plan on taking a brief look at the later showdown as well after lock. Make my lineups for that. Okay. Good. We're diversifying payouts. All right, we might actually get another. Sim's running much quicker this time because I started this sim at 6:10. It's only been 2 minutes. I think I just sometimes run into issues because of the streaming. Favorite captain for which slate? For the first slate, probably Devin Achane, followed by, I do like the idea of playing Justin Fields stacked up quite a bit, like triple stacked. And then probably Tyreek Hill would be third. Jalen Waddle at really, like both Hill and Waddle coming in at really low ownership. I mean, Breece Hall is only 8,000. I guess he looks like a strong play also. All right, I'm going to download these lineups. Yeah, these look good. Reminder, if you want a Flaniverse hat, you can win one. If you win $1,000 or more, give a shout out to myself or Mathology13 on Twitter or Flaniversity. Send me your address. Use the Flaniverse avatar where possible. You can also win it by winning on DraftKings on Underdog. There you can't use the Flaniverse avatar, but so you don't need to do it there. All right, we're down to 98.4% Devin Achane. So yeah, go Devin Achane. 16% Fields, 32% Knicks, 30% Tua Tagovailoa, 21% Browning now. Running backs, we got 98% Devin Achane, 55% Breece Hall, 54% Chase Brown, 38% J.K. Dobbins, 27% R.J. Harvey, 5% Ollie Gordon. Wide receivers, just 27% Garrett Wilson. That could bury me. 53% Tyreek Hill, 56% Cortland Sutton, 46% Jamar Chase, 59% T. Higgins, 43% Jalen Waddle, 21% Torrey Franklin, 1% Josh Reynolds, 13% Marvin Mims, 3% Malik Washington. Did not end up getting any of Yoshivas, Arian Smith, anybody else. Tight ends, 52% Evan Ingram, 11.5% Mason Taylor, 23% Mike Gesicki, 7% Darren Waller, 5% Adam Troutman. I got these lineups in, right? Yes, I did. Okay, good. Just need to double check that. 1% Drew Sample. Didn't get to any Tanner Hudson. But yeah, 5% Adam Troutman seems like plenty to me. And then got, back up to 52% Evan Ingram. That might have been a mistake. I might have wanted more Mason Taylor there. Defense is 42% Denver Broncos. Glad it's under 50% at least. 30% Jets, 17% Dolphins, 11% Bengals. That looks pretty good. All right, let's do the final showdown slate for the one that starts in an hour. I guess I'll open a new sim runner. Download that one. I haven't looked at the prices on this one yet. So curious to see. All right. Agree with you, Kieran. You should change your avatar from Stochastic to Flannelverse. All right. What's Mims' projected ownership for the main compared to Franklin? I mean, it's sort of tough because the Mims ownership is not going to be right. My guess is that he comes in like 10%. It was all kind of over the place because I think some places had him out probably. But my guess is that, yeah, Mims 10 to 15%, Franklin more than that. Franklin was being projected for, let's see. Oh, man, just 17% here. There's no way it's that low, though. RG had it at... Where are we? This one? Yeah. %. That seems more reasonable. That's about where so RG ended up with 26% Franklin, 11% Mims. I think that seems about right. I would guess Franklin's at least double Mims. All right, now let's do final showdown, Cincinnati, Denver. Again, I'm going to start by not making any changes except for just setting it up the way that it should be. 15,000 contest field, top heavy payout structure. 170 lineups. Yep. Good luck to those of you who are checking out. I want to play Harvey. Otherwise, I would just play Mims and Franklin. I mean, both. Well, I don't know. I don't know if Mims is actually that much more likely to hit than Harvey. Franklin certainly is. Mike currently running the Sims for the Broncos Showdown. Just getting to it. Just saying, pull up RG while it's running and look at it. Actually, I'll start in the flex. And I'll sort by salary. Chase getting 43%, Knicks 51%, Browning 39%, Browning 10,000. Man, surprised he's that expensive. Chase Brown 41%, Cortland Sutton 43%, J.K. Dobbins 34%, Franklin 33.5% at 6,600 here. Higgins going to get lost, so I'm going to like Higgins. I can see that right away. 8,400, priced up a little bit, so people will be a little bit afraid to play him. 27.5% projected ownership. Harvey at 4,800 on the Showdown, 26% ownership. I think I'm going to play that also. Not going to be way over the field there, but a little bit. Mims getting 29% at 3,600 looks pretty good. Nobody playing the Bengals defense. Broncos defense looks fine. Gesicki looks really good here to me at 21.5% ownership at 2,800. Yoshivas at 6% looks like a strong play. Troutman looks fine at 1,600, 13% ownership. Pat Bryant, you can play at 800. Man, Tyler Bidet getting 18% ownership. Don't think I can get behind that. Tanner Hudson looks okay at 5% ownership. Playing through Bengals' biggest edge. Playing through Bengals' biggest edge. I'm not understanding your comment, Peppertoni, or question. Playing through Bengals' biggest edge. Are you saying Jamar Chase? What's their biggest edge? Chase Brown? All right, we're calculating payouts. I'll look at captain ownership. Yeah, 11% Jamar Chase seems reasonable. Only 3.5% going to Jake Browning. He's a little bit too expensive, but I don't mind that. Going to Jake Browning, a captain, and triple stacking him. 12% Chase Brown looks pretty good. 18% Sutton is a bit much. Dobbins at 15.5%. He's pretty cheap. T. Higgins stands out again. That's my favorite captain play here at 1%. T. Higgins, give me that. Give me T. Higgins captain all day. Franklin looks okay at 2%. Harvey at 3.5% at 7,200, kind of enticing. Broncos defense at 1% captain ownership looks really good. But yeah, the biggest standout to me here is T. Higgins at captain. All right, it's taking a little time. Oh, is playing through the Bengals the biggest edge? It might be. I mean, honestly, it's going to go fairly low owned, I think. Yeah, because the field's going to be scary. And we've seen Jake Browning play at pretty strong level. He's a backup quarterback that he's a little bit inconsistent, but he's had his games where he's just really good. Tough matchup. Obviously, Chase being shadowed, not ideal, but yeah, could be the way to go. No, you can't see projected ownership by lineup type. I think ETR, as far as I know, the only one that does that. I could be wrong though. All right, there we go. Top lineup now, I guess is the first run. So I haven't made any changes yet, but top lineup: Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix, Chase Brown, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Will Lutz. Second lineup: Chase Brown, Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Will Lutz. A lot of Will Lutz here. All right, let's look at player exposures. At quarterback, getting to a ton of Bo Nix, 65 and 21%. Let me look at their projected ownership first. So they have Jake Browning projected for 46 and 6%. So these are the ownerships that are going in as I'm using the Sims here. They have Chase Brown at just 24 and 6%. So 30% total ownership at 9,600. Jamar Chase 37 and 12. T Higgins 25 and 8. So there's the big difference. That's why I'm not seeing a ton of T Higgins at the top. RG has it at 1% captain ownership. 8% much more reasonable there. 10% going to Yoshivas here. 11 to Gasicki. 8 Drew Sample. 7 Tanner Hudson. 14% going to Evan McPherson. 5 Bengals. They have 17% ownership going to RJ Harvey, 50% J.K. Dobbins, 52 and 28. So a ton of ownership going to Bo Nix here. 50% total ownership going to Cortland Sutton, 21 Troy Franklin, 21 Marvin Mims, 17 Evan Ingram. That feels pretty low. Maybe, I guess he hasn't really done much this year. People might be kind of out on him. They're giving Lucas Kroll 10% ownership, so need to take that out. Let me see if I refresh if that's gone. All right, so I need to manually change that because nobody's going to be playing Lucas Kroll. Okay, so changes that I want to make. Let's see here. First of all, I'm going to set the settings up again before I forget. Then make a few changes to the inputs. I'm going to bring down T. Higgins captain ownership to 5%. See if that's enough to get more. Going to bring up his market share receiving to 24%. And I clicked the Smart Adjust button. Going to want a lot of Chase Brown here, I think. Yoshi, I'm going to bring up a little bit. Just slightly. Gasicki, I think, looks great. I think I need to actually rerun the Sims again before I do too much here, because I didn't look at all the exposures. Yeah, I think Dobbins captain looks really good. Daniel says, if Chase and Higgins go off, he sees a Flaniverse hat in my future. Hey, good luck. Would love to send out some Flaniverse hats. Chokehold'em in Discord is apparently hand building right now. If you want to check out, if you haven't checked out the Flaniverse Discord, it is free. The link is in the description of this video. Some talk about where you can find free projections, which I don't actually know if where there are any free projections around the industry. Any big scoring yet in the first game? Calculating payouts. A field goal. Okay. How would you build a Broncos defense captain lineup? It would be Broncos defense at captain, using probably would use most of the salary cap. I would probably have um, both running backs, RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, in the flex. Troy Franklin, Cortland Sutton. Maybe, I don't know if I'd have both the receivers. Maybe do a Bo Nix with one receiver. T. Higgins or Chase Brown. Probably not a ton from the Bengals side. The real question is, does Devin Achane have any catches yet? That's the important thing. Just need him to PPR his way there. No, just a lot of runs, looks like. He is on his way to a 100-yard bonus, at least. But since I have 98%, kind of invested. Braylon Allen got the second run of the game. That's pretty interesting. Or second run for his team, I should say. Calculating payouts. All right. It's slow again. It was fast for a minute there. Darren Waller makes his first catch with the Dolphins, first catch in the NFL since 2023. Good for him. All right, we're getting close. We're getting close here. Diversifying payouts. I'm getting hungry, so probably just going to do a couple runs and then roll with it. I'll see what it gives me, make some changes, run it one more time. All right, top lineup: Cortland Sutton, captain; Bo Nix, Chase Brown, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Will Lutz. Let's just look right at the player exposures. Captain, quarterback, we're getting Bo Nix 58%, 31% at captain; Jake Browning 25% and 2%, so not a ton of Browning. Running back, we're getting to 28 and 2 of J.K. Dobbins, 65 and 9 of Chase Brown, 9 and 0 of RJ Harvey, 6% Samaje Perine in the flex, none of Tyler Bidet, 0.5% Taj Brooks. Wide receivers, and this I already adjusted T. Higgins up a little bit, but I'm getting to 49% and 21% Cortland Sutton, 25% and 6% T. Higgins, 11 and 1 of Jamar Chase. So that's not getting too much Chase now. 45 and 15 of Troy Franklin, 47 and 6 of Marvin Mims, 7% Trent Sherfield, 1% Andre Yoshivas, 1% Pat Bryant. All right, I'm seeing some changes I want to make there. Tight end, getting to 24 and 1% Evan Ingram, 7% Mike Gesicki, 4% Adam Troutman, 2% Tanner Hudson, none of Drew Sample. Kickers, 64% Will Lutz, none of Evan McPherson, 2% in the captain of Will Lutz. Defenses, 15 and 3% Broncos, 9 and 0% Bengals. Okay. So some changes to make there, I think. I think I'm a little bit scared of this Chase ownership here. Would like a little bit of Yoshivas, maybe a little bit of Pat Bryant. All right, so I'm going to go back to the inputs. Going to move the Bengals up to 19 points scored, pace of 61. Going to bring down Jake Browning's rushing market share 10%. Bring up Yoshi to 11% receiving market share. I'm just going to get rid of Mitchell Tinsley. I'm going to get rid of Cam Grandy. Bring up Mike Gesicki to 12%. I'm going to bring down the Chase ownership just a little bit because I wasn't getting to any, and that kind of scares me. 36% and 10%. Oh, this is Jake Browning's ownership really high. I'm going to bring that down to 45 and 4. Normalize all that. Wasn't getting to any Evan McPherson. I'm going to bring his projection up to 7. It's getting to a ton of Bo Nix, which is fine, but I'm actually going to bring his rushing market share in half from 20% down to 10%. Because I want to get to more of the running backs. I'm going to bring up RJ Harvey from 20% to 30% rushing market share. Maybe I'll get rid of Bidet and give that to Dobbins. I also like Dobbins here. I'm going to bring up, going to get rid of Bidet as a pass catcher too. I'm just accepting 0 Bidet here. Going to move RJ Harvey up to 8% receiving market share. I'm going to bring Pat Bryant up to 4%. Maybe get rid of Adkins and give some more to Evan Ingram. Broncos defense. I want to get a little bit less Will Lutz. I'm going to bring him down to from 9.5 to just 9 projection and bring up the sack rate of the Broncos to 9%. All right. This is probably the only time I'm going to just live with what I get here, I think. Yeah, let's try that. I do like double Denver running back lineups. Yeah, I like that quite a bit on Showdown. Braylon Allen. Look, I mean, I have 0 Braylon Allen, so hopefully he doesn't bury me. Hopefully he hasn't scored, has he? I think it's difficult for him to bury me unless he scores, but if he scores, I'm going to be in trouble. Oh, they're in the red zone, looks like. Wouldn't that be classic to get buried while I'm still streaming? It already happened. Actually, I thought it happened 2 Mondays ago. I ended up winning the Minimax on that slate. Started off horribly. It was like the first game was a ton of scoring right away, and I was trying to kind of fading the first game, hoping for the later game. And it ended up going okay. Obviously, I had the lineup in the wrong contest, won the Minimax for $200 instead of the main for $15,000. But that's because I'm maxing out the Minimax, only playing like 5. Allen fumbled. All right, they should just take him out. Recovered by Miami. Ooh, ouch. I like it. I mean, sorry for the young man. Has his whole life ahead of him, of course. That's tough for him, but good for my lineups. Better than him scoring. Wait, did HN actually score a touchdown? No, Sean, are you just lying to me, Sean? Exactly. Just use Brees Hall there. Sean, you can't do this to me. Don't be making stuff up and breaking my heart. Oh, you're just wishing for it. I see. It's like that seems too quick for them to like switch offenses. Yeah, I want it to. I've been talking with the people at Playback a little bit about they're going to have NFL soon. For now, just Red Zone, so you can't actually watch individual games, but you can do playback with Red Zone. This just reminded me of it because the game is going on while I'm streaming, which doesn't happen that often. But that's something that I might start doing with some people. It's tough because I'm so busy on Sundays that I'm like, it's just the timing is not amazing, but it would be kind of fun to hang out, watch Red Zone together. Calculating payouts, we're getting there. Minka Fitzpatrick knocked it out. Man, that was fortuitous for me, for my lineups. Doesn't look like Miami can stop the Jets running game. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough running game because you got Fields you have to account for. Brees Hall really good, obviously, and then Braylon Allen gives you kind of a different look. All right, diversifying payouts. We're almost there. I mean, even if Braylon Allen scored, like, it wouldn't necessarily kill lineups in Showdown because he's 7,000 or the main. I mean, he's 5,200 in the main. All right. Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix, Chase Brown, Evan Ingram, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin. The top lineup here leaves 1,700 on the table. Then we've got a J.K. Dobbins captain with Chase Brown, Jake Browning, Mike Gesicki, T. Higgins, Will Lutz. Cortland Sutton with Bo Nix, Chase Brown, Marvin Mims, Franklin, and Will Lutz. Looking for RJ Harvey. Okay, now we've got a couple Higgins, Chase Brown, Dobbins, Browning, Gesicki, Harvey. So that one has Browning is stacked up, multi-stack there. Another Harvey with Higgins in the captain spot. Curious if I get to any. Here we go. 16th lineup has RJ Harvey captain with J.K. Dobbins. I was looking for that specifically. If I have any with the running back and captain and the other running back in the flex, I like that. I think I don't know. I was going to say I think I like it better with J.K. Dobbins in the captain spot, but I think both are viable. Here's another Harvey captain with J.K. Dobbins. I'm going to use these lineups now. Player exposures now at quarterback. We're at 60-4 Bo Nix, 41-3 Jake Browning, 65-18 Chase Brown, 29-4 J.K. Dobbins, 33-3 RJ Harvey, 2% Samaje Perine. Wide receivers 30-25 Cortland Sutton, 23-4 Jamar Chase. So still under the field there. Only 21-19. So I got to a lot more of T. Higgins at captain by lowering the exposure. They're still just 21% in the flex. I guess I'm going to accept it, but it's not. I would like to have more T. Higgins, but I'll take it. 40% Troy Franklin with 12% in the flex. I guess I'm already hedged because I have a lot in the main slate of Higgins. 34-5 of Mims, 11-1 of Yoshivas, 4% Pat Bryant, 4% Trent Sherfield. That looks better. Defenses, 15% Broncos, 10% Bengals, 2% Broncos captain. Kickers, we're down to 38% Will Lutz, 4% Evan McPherson, none at captain. Tight ends, 22% Evan Ingram, 1 at captain, 10% Gesicki, 5% Tanner Hudson. So these do look more like the lineups that I want to be playing. Didn't get quite all the way there, but I'm not gonna keep running sims. Got to go get some dinner. So I'm gonna put these in. I'll be back tomorrow with Mathology and special guest Dave from Established Run. If I'm remembering correctly, I believe Dave is going to be on with us tomorrow. So that should be fun, doing some dog bowl qualifier drafts. Back on this channel on Thursday with more Showdown. I've got another Sunday morning game this week. Can you look for a Broncos defense captain? Yeah, I can do that. Did I have any? Let me make sure I have some. Yeah, I have 2%. All right, so let's see. What do the Broncos defense captain lineups look like? Broncos defense, the 25th lineup here. Broncos defense. Wow, that's interesting. Broncos defense with total Bengals onslaught. Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, Jake Browning, Mike Gesicki, T. Higgins. That must be, I think the only way that works is if they have like multiple turnovers that they turn into touchdowns. Maybe one, and I don't know. But that's pretty surprising to see that Broncos captain lineup. See if I can find another one. Broncos captain, kind of similar. Chase Brown. Bengals defense in this one, J.K. Dobbins, Jake Browning, T. Higgins. Broncos defense here with both running backs. This looks more like what I would expect it to look like. Broncos, J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey. That one has Jake Browning, T. Higgins, and Chase Brown. But yeah, that top one, I want to see is it just not duped at all? That must be why. One dupe is, yeah, the expected. Interesting. All right. I'm going to get out of here. Took out Harvey for Denver DST. Okay. I'm going to get out of here. Appreciate you guys for hanging out. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Check out the Flaniverse Discord if you're interested in hanging out with Flaniverse, sweating these games with us. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you later. Good luck tonight.